Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome to an exciting episode of Haqiqatjou. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Haqiqatjou. And we have a very fun and inshallah beneficial episode. Of course, we know Haqiqatjou is all about discussing religion and politics, the two least controversial subjects. But we're going to have a watch party, inshallah. As you know, I had my interview with Brother Mohammed Hijab just the day before yesterday. And alhamdulillah, it was a very beneficial discussion. And today, or last night, it was announced that Brother Hijab is going to have a discussion with none other than a Jake Brancatella. And as you may know, there's been a lot of back and forth between me and Jake. And in that live stream, or in the interview with Brother Hijab, he brought up Jake by name. I didn't want to bring up anyone's name, but he brought it up and he wanted to discuss it. And ultimately, he ended with a dua. He ended up with a dua about wanting peace, wanting brotherhood, wanting coming together. And that is the intention that we have today, because Brother Hijab is going to go and talk with Jake today in about 15 or 20 minutes. So wouldn't it be great if we could all have a discussion together, all three of us? That would be, I think, a great sign of brotherhood if we can talk about these important issues. Jake has made video after video after video criticizing me, calling me a deviant. It's very sad. It's very unfortunate. He called me a deviant. He says I'm the greatest liar that he's ever seen. He called me a shaitan. He even literally said, Daniel, go to hell, which is kind of like a dua against me. So, subhanAllah. This is unfortunate, but I want us to get past that. I want us to come to agreement on these questions and these criticisms that he has. That's what I'd like to do. I'm hoping that Brother Hijab will facilitate the conversation. He'll facilitate that kind of meeting of the minds, and we'll discuss and we'll resolve issues, inshallah. So if Jake agrees, then I will join their stream. I'm here ready and waiting to join their stream. If he doesn't want me to join, he's not open to a friendly conversation, he doesn't want that brotherhood, okay, that's his choice. But we'll still watch. We'll have a conversation, and we will analyze what they're going to say, inshallah. We'll figure out what's the correct aqidah, maybe. So this is good, inshallah. This is good. So I'm watching the chat, obviously. How's the sound? How's the sound that we have? Am I coming through loud and clear? I want to make sure. And of course, make sure you subscribe to our newsletter. Very important. You can find the link to join in the description below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to look at the sound, make sure the sound is good. I want to make sure we get everything loud and clear for this exciting episode. We're just waiting for their stream to start. And I'll tell you what I anticipate them talking about in a second. Just have to make sure. Here, let's do a test. See if you guys hear on this. Let's do a test.
But every month, competition. I need something more. Give me something a little bit more. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Give me something just a little bit more. So
You guys hear that okay?
I need to be putting myself in a risky position. I need to put myself.
Volume sounds good on that, everyone? It's too low. Okay. Yeah, I'll raise the volume, inshallah. Let's see. Okay. Okay, great. So inshallah, I'll be good to go. Gonna have a good time, inshallah. So what do I anticipate in this discussion? So I think that when it comes to things that Hijab and myself agree on, we agree on this whole issue of are Ash'aris and Maturidis Sunni. That's one thing that we agree on. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah includes Ash'ari, Maturidi, Salafi, Athari, Ahl Hadith. This is all Sunnism. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. That's myself and Mohammed Hijab are on the same page with that, and we discussed it in our interview. Jake says that's deviance. Jake says, no, it's deviant. The Asha'ira and the Maturidiyah, they're deviants. There can be no unity with deviants. They're Ahlul Bid'ah. That's Jake's position. Okay, so I wonder if they're going to discuss that. That's point number one. Point number two, is it required for Muslims to get into Aqidah debates? The average Muslim. Because that was also a big critique that Jake had against me. That Daniel is hiding his Aqidah. He doesn't write articles. Daniel doesn't have any lectures or articles, in the plural, on Aqidah, on the deviance of the Ash'aris. Daniel claims that he's Athari. Daniel claims that he's an Athari, but he doesn't actually have any articles or videos or debates justifying being an Athari as opposed to being Ash'ari or Maturidi. So Daniel is hiding his Aqidah. He needs to make his Aqidah clear. And my response to that, I brought, Sheikh Diddu, I brought other authorities that said, no, the average Muslim is not required. It's not obligatory to delve into these details of Aqidah, the in-depth debates of Aqidah. That's not required for salvation. And I personally, I have my personal beliefs, but it's not required to make that a part of my dawah. I'm calling to Islam. I'm refuting other issues that are very critical towards the iman of Muslims, like liberalism, feminism, secularism, reformism, Zionism, Christian apologetics. That's what I'm focused on. I don't need to get into debates of Ash'aris, etc. Ash'ari versus Ahlul Hadith versus Maturidi. I don't need to. That's not what I personally want to dedicate my dawah to. If you want to do that, go ahead. But Jake said, no. This is deviance. You have to. Everyone has to focus on this. And this just shows that Daniel doesn't even care about Aqidah. Daniel doesn't even care. That was his argument in multiple videos and tweets and basically dedicating his entire channel to critiquing me. So let's see if that second issue is discussed. The third issue that I think they're really going to focus on is the issue of Shia. Are Shia Muslim or not? And I think that Jake is going to try to focus and make the whole discussion about are Shia Muslim or not. And again, in the stream or the interview that I had, Mohammed Hijab said that the Shia are Muslims. They're Muslims. And he said he doesn't even like to use the term Rafidi or Rawafid. He doesn't even like to use that term. He prefers Shia or Twelvers. So again, me and brother Mohammed Hijab are on the same page in that. So Jake has made takfir, mass takfir on Shia, despite the fact that that's not the position of Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah is very well known for not doing mass takfir of the Shia and saying Shia, 12 or Shia are Muslim. So let's see if Jake will broach that subject and try to debate Mohammed Hijab on that. And then I think Jake is going to try to get into Assadists and Bashar al-Assad and Iran. And I think he'll have a lot in common with Brother Hijab on that. We touched upon it. Obviously, we discussed for 20, 30 minutes on the interview with Mohammed Hijab 2 days ago about this. So, Jake might want to just make the entire stream about how evil Iran is. In which case, I want to know, that's one of the questions I have. Is Iran really the biggest threat? I acknowledge Iran has done a lot of crimes and atrocities against Sunnis in Syria and elsewhere. But is Iran the biggest threat to Muslims in the Middle East, or is it Israel? I think that's a question that needs to be addressed. So these are the topics, inshallah, that I anticipate, or these are the topics that should be discussed. But I anticipate that Jake will try to avoid any kind of intra-Sunni, Ash'ari, Maturidi. I think he's going to try to avoid talking about Ibn Abdul Wahhab, even though that's his sheikh. Remember, Jake says that my sheikh is Ibn Abdul Wahhab, the great sheikh. Mohammed Hijab says no, Mohammed Hijab has a lot of criticisms on record against Ibn Abdul Wahhab. A lot. He's even mocked or dismissed Kitab al-Tawheed on video. So is Jake going to bring that up? Is Jake going to challenge Mohammed Hijab? Why? What is your beef? What is your problem with Maulana or Mujaddid Shaykhul Islam Ibn Abdul Wahhab? I think that Jake should really ask Mohammed Hijab to clarify. And Mohammed Hijab should ask Jake, why do you not know what Ibn Abdul Wahhab believed, what he said, what he did? So if I'm invited to have that conversation, hopefully we can just come and talk about these issues in a friendly manner. Why is that not possible? Why is that not possible? Because I had a conversation with Mohammed Hijab 2 days ago, and we don't agree on everything. We don't agree on every single issue, and that came through. That was very obvious in that discussion, in that interview. But we can respectfully disagree and have a brotherly discussion with respect and mutual understanding. That's the beautiful thing about having a discussion, and that's why I have invited Jake over and over again. Let's have a conversation. You don't want to have a debate? Okay, let's have a friendly conversation. Let's have it moderated. One person from your side, one person from my side. Let's have this discussion between me and you. I've invited him. He refuses. He doesn't want to have a discussion. I don't know why. It's a mystery to me. So hopefully, in the spirit of reconciliation and greater understanding, because these are issues that maybe you all are curious about. Okay, what is the deal with istighatha? What is the deal with Ibn Abdul Wahhab? What is the deal with Ash'a'ira and the difference between Ash'aris and Maturidis? Maybe you have a passing interest. And you want to see who's right. Is Daniel right? Is Jake right? Is Mohammed Hijab right? So, if you're interested, let's have a discussion. Let's have a nice conversation about it, inshallah. So we're just waiting now for their stream to start. think it's going to be a good one. What do you guys think? Oh, I see some super chats already coming. Let me try this new super chat setup. See if it's working or not. Let's see if the new super chat setup I have. What's your aqidah, bro? Love you for the sake of Allah. Jazakallah khair, brother. Appreciate you. May Allah love you. Brother Bilal, thank you for your super chat. Let's stay strong. We need what's your aqidah, bro? Written merchandise for the ummah. Yeah, that'd be a cool idea. What's your aqidah? Sir, this is a Wendy's. What's your aqidah? Sir, this is a Wendy's. Yeah, I mean, we need to ask people what their aqidah is. It's the most important thing. We know that. Adil says there's a similar subject if the layman should be involved in difficult aqidah subject between Imam Ibn Salah and Sultan al-Ulama. Watch the paper written by Hatim al-Auni, very enlightening paper. Yeah, maybe we'll get a chance to read that, inshallah. How about the regular chat? What are you guys saying? Here's a critical comment. Daniel is not knowledgeable. He's just stating cliche things that Ash'ari say. I am. So we will... I mean, if that's the case, then it should be an easy conversation for Jake, right? He should really want to have me on because I just say cliche things, so... I don't know how Jake will get out of this without having to tabdiya Brother Mohammed Hijab. Yeah, I mean, that's the question. If I am a mubtadi'a, if I'm a deviant, an innovator, what about Mohammed Hijab, who has the same positions? Looks like they're going to start in about 8 minutes. We'll see. Daniel, if you don't want to make your dawah about which sect is true, why make light of the matter? Do you know why? Do you know any scholar before modernity who said that both aqidah schools are valid? Yeah, there's so many. There's so many scholars, pre-modern scholars, who have said that these schools are all Ahlus Sunnah. And inshallah, I'll have a video outlining all of that. There are so many pre-modern scholars, and you have to be really ignorant to not know that. But why is it so important? Because unfortunately, Wahhabis create sectarianism for the sake of geopolitics. So you'll notice that I wasn't asked and interrogated about my aqidah before I criticized Saudi Halloween. As soon as I criticized Saudi Halloween and the secularization of the Gulf states and the normalization with Israel and the Abraham Accords, I got the aqidah testing began. Non-stop aqidah testing. So this is a weapon that is used in order to... I explained this to Brother Hijab. This is a weapon, sectarianism as a weapon to undermine political Islam, Islamic unity, pan-Islamic unity, and alliance against the bigger threats. That's why it's important. Aqidah is important. Aqidah is important, but what does aqidah mean? Does it mean having a debate about what is exactly Yadullah, or is the tilawah of the Quran created or not created versus the actual Quran versus this versus that? Like, is that required? Is that the aqidah that every Muslim is required to know? Obviously not. What's your aqidah, bro? Why takfiri divisive Najdi understanding has monopoly on defining the term Ahl Sunnah? These lunatics even define Ikhwan as a separate firqa. Yeah, I mean, we need to understand like Wahhabism and what is the reality of it. Dan and Jake, BFFs. This ends tonight, brother. Nice. You created a whole profile for that comment. Jazakallah khair. Akhi, don't fall for hijab trap of being friendly with Omar Sulaiman. He wants you to avoid holding him account for pushing liberalism. Yeah, I mean, we hold them to account. The friendliness is just in terms of allying with someone who is trying to fight against a bigger threat. So, am I friendly with Omar Sulaiman just because I say that I will ally with him despite him having deviant views? Just like I'm okay and I want an alliance between Sunni and Shia, despite Shia having deviant views. And in fact, sometimes being outright deviant and sometimes having even kufri views. These are the nuances and distinctions that are so important. One of the things that we didn't really discuss with Brother Hijab is that the reformism of liberal Muslims, secularized Muslims, is a huge threat to Islam. And it is actually a very pressing threat that has to be addressed. Like when you're trying to bring LGBT into Islam and making Muslims friendly with LGBT, as Yaqeen Institute has been doing, that's something that needs to be addressed. And that was the critique.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome back. I'm Jake Brancatella. And it's no surprise what we're going to be talking about here today. I'm going to be live with Brother Mohammed Hijab. Excited to have the conversation with him. There's been a lot going on, a lot to be discussed, a lot to be talked about. So let's just kind of jump straight into this. Let me bring him on. 1 second.
Let's go.
Assalamu
alaikum, akhi.
And people, don't be confused. I know the name says Sabor right there, but he's with him. But Sabor is not that. That's not Sabor, right?
I've been so patient. I've been so sabor, and I've been so patient with you and Daniel and all this back and forth. SubhanAllah, I've been so patient with you guys, man. I was just watching the masterpiece in PBD. Me rewatching it. It was a fantastic time, and I'm just waiting and hoping that we get back to old times, you know, where we have a good time watching.
Let's
you guys
go.
Make a reunion, you know, like in the
Let's
WWE,
go. Let's do it.
Had like one of the characters in the tag team, you know what I mean, and then you'd hit one of them, and then he'd come back.
Do it right now,
like the Hardy Boys, yeah, show my D-Generation X or the Dudley Boys, or I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, speaking on that, I mean, since you mentioned it, and I just want to say, you know, hello to Daniel, salam to Daniel, because I know he's watching the stream right now. He's doing a live watch party. I don't know for exactly what reason. Maybe he's a bit nervous about letting us speak. About, you know.
He's not nervous. He's not.
I'm not nervous.
What it is. Allahu Akbar.
I want to join you. I want to join and have a conversation.
I'm just saying, bro. I let you guys have your discussion, right? I don't need.
No, we wanted you. We wanted you to have a discussion too.
Anyway, it is what it is. We're here. So, speaking of reconciliation, you know, there was a point that you mentioned during that discussion with Daniel, because we're going to obviously speak about some other things, but some related to that discussion you had with Daniel. And with the current dispute, I'll just call it that for now, between Daniel and myself, right? Many people, not only you, I've seen hundreds of messages literally, would like to see this resolved, right? And they would like to see a sort of formal reconciliation. Now, you yourself, right? And this is not meant to be an attack, but I'm just saying, you yourself have had several public disputes with other Muslims, with other du'at. Yeah. How have you navigated that? And have you been able to reconcile with any of those brothers, or do you see a potential for that in the future?
Kind of. I think the situation of me and Sajid is like, for example, Sajid Lipham, the situation with me and him now is he kind of understands that we're on a different wavelength in terms of fiqh, a slightly different wavelength in terms of aqidah and manhaj. So it's so clear that it's not requiring for him to respond to me. Was there a personal element to these? I think there really was. At least from my side, I can't compare from his. I can't say anything about him. I'm talking about my own self. Whether it's Sajid Lipham, whether it's Shamsi, whether it's anybody else, it does get personal. I'm not afraid to admit that. And I think a lot of it is to do with the fact that, at least from my perspective, there's this element of self-aggrandizement or self-importance. Or in my case, I give more importance to myself than I actually deserve. And so what happens is if someone attacks me, then I become more angry than I would if someone attacks someone close to me as well. That's another thing. Then I get more defensive. I get more, psychologically triggered by those. And so I've noticed that about myself, and I've had to kind of do spiritual work on that matter, to be honest. And I've noticed also that it's very difficult to eliminate, and I don't think you'd want to eliminate the aspect of giving yourself importance, because there are two extremes on the matter. There's a nice book by Dr. Malkin called The Narcissist Test, actually. And he says that he basically has a whole spectrum from 0 to 10, 0 being like, he calls them egoists, and 10 being someone who's very, very much a narcissist, And he says that the healthy place to be is at 5. So where you kind of do give yourself some level of self-importance, but you're not giving yourself so much level of self-importance that you would become obsessed with yourself, essentially. And I think that my problem was, and probably still is, and I have to work on it myself, is I give myself too much importance. I'm not that important in the cosmic grand scheme of things. I'm just, a guy that's born and raised in London, in the urban centers, in the hood, actually, getting school dinners and sleeping in hotel rooms, and really very much a working class background. I got people liking my stuff on the internet. That shouldn't delude me. And so at the end of the day, the more I think of it from that perspective, the more I think it actually hurts less, and I'm triggered less by anybody attacking me online, because now I can shrug my shoulders a little bit and say, whatever, it is what it is. Who are you anyway? The attacks are, I think, one of the greatest ways to protect yourself from the pain of being criticized is to reduce your own sense of self-importance. That's what I've learned. Now, I don't agree with the some Sufis say they call it fanat. Actually, in the Sufi tradition, there are some people who believe in something called fanat, which in English is translated as ego death, actually, where you kill yourself and your nafs completely. I don't think people, even Temi actually discusses this at length, but I don't think it's possible to do that without ramification. I don't think it's desirable to do that, but I do think a good sense of reducing your sense of self-importance, from my perspective, has actually helped me very much, and has made me make light of life and enjoy life a lot more. So now, if sometimes if someone attacks me from those camps or from other people, I actually empathize with them. So I sat with myself and I said, the first thing you need to do is remove the grudge from yourself relating to these people. You need to work on that. And that requires a degree of empathy. It requires, okay, let's see where they're coming from. They may be sincere. They may actually think that you are not on the manhaj, that you are muqtada. They actually might think it's their duty to warn the people from you. And let's be honest, you have not been, the greatest example in my case either. So it might be coming from a place of, sincerity. And so what helps me with it is that I imagine some of these previous adversaries, praying, fasting, doing the same kind of things that I'm doing in their life, having, they have beautiful families, they've got kids, they do this kind of thing. Okay, I'll tell you one story. I don't want to, talk too much about this.
Yeah.
But there was a time where the Madkhalis were really attacking me, the people who follow Rabi' bin Hadi in Madkhali, the S-pubs in the UK, for example. And there was a time where I actually went to Hajj, okay, and I think it was the year 2019. And what happened was, in Arafah, this is the time where everyone just writes down. We were writing down the du'ats that we want to make, because it's the time where your du'a is most likely to be accepted. Because I was being stung so much by them, I was planning subhanallah, on making dua against them. Yeah, in Arafah.
Mhm.
Lo and behold, I was in the, you get these kind of like coaches that take you, buses that take you to Arafah, the place itself. And
Yeah.
first time in the flesh, I actually was in the same bus as one of them. His name is Bilal Davis. Okay,
Mhm.
he's well known. As soon as I saw him in his ihram and I saw him dressed like that and going to do ibadah, I had made a decision then and there that I'm not going to make dua against him, but I'm going to make dua for him. Because
Mhm.
what changed my perspective on that was the fact that he was going to do the same thing that I was doing. Seeing him in those humble garments, subhanallah, something just clicked within me that just made me think, wow, I need to change. But this ain't what you're thinking is not right. This is a Muslim like you who's gone to do something quite significant, which is Hajj. He wants the sins to be forgiven. This shows sincerity. So why are you going to make dua against him? So I changed. Allah put him there in my way at that time to potentially to put that kind of thought process in my head and for me to make dua for him. And I still make dua for them. So at the same time now, like some people ask me about these brothers, not just Shamsi, but Abu Ayyad and Bilal Davis and Abu Khadija and all of them. And now I have a completely different attitude towards them. Yeah, I know that I don't agree with them. Obviously, I don't agree with their manhaj and their tatarruf and all of that stuff. And they don't agree with me. It's a two-way system. But as people and as persons, I don't actually have. I can say wholeheartedly I don't have a problem with them. And in fact, I think a lot of them are sincere. Like Shamsi, as an example, we live in the same area in London. We both lived in a very similar environment. I know he was.
I mean, the problem, what Brother Hijab is saying is that sectarianism affects everyone. It's not like a personal issue with him personally. It's their sectarian of these Wahhabis affects everyone. It causes constant civil war. That's the problem.
About the guy. If he or anyone of my previous adversaries ever needed my help, ever needed my financial or physical support, I'd be the first person to help them and to be there. But it took a long time for me to discover this, and I'm happy that I went through whatever I went through with these brothers, because it allowed me to realize, okay, wait, hold on, there's work to be done within myself. You take yourself to.
He's making it about a personal struggle, like a spiritual struggle. But it has real world consequences when you make the Muslim community and be involved with constant civil war.
I hope that I can advance and become better at that. But still, yeah, if someone attacks me, I might get triggered. Because once again, it's an ongoing battle.
Yeah. So speaking about that, some self, thinking too highly of ourselves, somewhat related to that is, there's issues with being an online figure, right? And receiving this sort of fame and popularity sometimes may be difficult to deal with. And one of the criticisms, and I'm not just directing it at you, I've been criticized of this. I don't think that I'm very guilty of it, but that's another story. Many people criticize the du'ats online for quote unquote chasing the algorithm or doing things for clicks and views or being too, I don't know, flamboyant. Now, I've been accused of this. You have, many people have. In fact, I don't know if you've seen Brother Hamza Sources recently. He appeared on a podcast called the Life Haq podcast, which I recommend people watch. I thought it was very interesting. I think it's something that pretty much everybody should watch, where he discussed this. Okay. And he mentioned that in his opinion, that it is a genuine problem, that there are du'at and maybe even shuyukh and people who are online that are seeking and chasing the algorithm. In fact, these are his words, not mine, but he said, and he labeled them, and he said he's doing this purposely. He's called them dawah pimps, right? And algorithm prostitutes. So I don't know if he's mentioned this kind of language to you, if you've seen him say these things. But what do you think about this? Do you think that this is a genuine issue today? I mean, do you feel like you're personally affected by it at all? Because I know that you were talking a bit about yourself, but you've been accused of this. I just want to know, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is a genuine criticism or not?
I think that,
a boring question.
I think, the attitude or how I come across, that's actually how I am. And anyone who's met me in person and has known me through the years, there's never been anyone who's ever said that okay, he in private is different the way he's in public. So that's just if someone sees me in private, and this is a challenge to anybody who's ever seen me and met me. You know, it's true though. If that's the way I laugh, the way I talk, the way I behave, that's just how I am. Whether there's a camera on me or there's no camera, there's almost no difference whatsoever. However, so that's one element. The other element about chasing fame and stuff like that, I always do think that is a problem actually. And there's obviously a hadith on that, which I think is in Tirmidhi, where you know is mentioned that there are two wolves, and one of them is fame and one of them is status, jah, or status in general. So, and that basically that they're too hungry actually, wolves, and that you can easily be devoured by the sheep is going to be devoured by those two things. There are things in the Sharia that are mentioned, like fame, like money, like power, like women. Okay, that anybody who is involved with these things, who denies that they affect him, is almost implausible at that stage. Now, some people, I would say, of those four things, power, women, in the case of men especially, power, fame, and what's the other one I mentioned? Money, right? Those four things, some people are more affected by one more than the other.
What do you think you're personally more affected by?
I think it's to do with attention. I think it's this seeking a validation from the public. I think that's what it is. And that probably comes from some kind of childhood trauma or lack of a father figure in the household or something. I mean, that's what at least my counselor friends and psychologists have told me. I mean, why do I act this way? Why do I almost try and seek attention? It could be just the fact that I'm using the public as a means of getting the attention that I never got when I was a child from a certain father figure. Do you know what I mean? It could be that.
No, I mean, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to be honest here as possible, but
I appreciate that. I appreciate you being honest and saying it. I mean, I'm not trying to put you in a corner or anything, because I've been accused of this. Pretty much anybody who's been online and has some level of popularity, they've been accused of, probably accusing me or you of this now. I mean, why are Jake and Brother Hijab doing this video? They're probably doing it for views and whatever. But I mean, honestly, that's not the case for me, and I don't think for you in this case. But
it's addictive as well. Like when your numbers start to go up, especially there are some platforms which are more addictive than the others. It's a bit like a slot machine in gambling. Like you're always seeing which tweet is going to be the one that does it, or which video is going to be the one that does it. So I appreciate there's like a dopamine.
Well, how do you deal with that, Akhi? I mean, if you're mentioning that that is a genuine challenge even for yourself, one thing is how are you dealing or coping with that? Number one, and number two, do you think you've fallen short when it comes to that at certain times?
Yes. To answer your second question first, I think I've definitely fallen short, because it's, once again, if we're being honest here, like, you know, it's an addictive drug, social media, not just consumption, but also distribution, you know, because as I mentioned, I'm sure there's a dopaminergic reaction that when you make a video and you get 500,000 views or 200,000, 300,000 views, and there's 20 or 30,000 people speaking about it, I'm sure that does something to your physiology. I will be surprised if anybody says that I done this debate or I done this live stream or I done this thing, and this many people were present, and I had zero feeling as if I was in a place with one person or two people. That for me would be hard to believe on anybody. Like if anyone said that. So I've had to categorize it as such. It's social media, whether it's consumption or whether it's distribution, has a highly addictive element.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And you should, once you understand this point. Okay, so I understand this point. There was a time where I had life-threatening illness, and I had to take morphine every day, 300 milligrams, which is like the maximum dose. And I was even taking some other things because the pain was actually quite bad. So I was taking that for many, many months, which is an opioid. Like for people that know, morphine is the strongest kind of opioid. It's like heroin, essentially. It's the same family as heroin. And I was taking that, and it was like for medicinal purposes. And I've got all kinds of stories and all kinds of mistakes I made at the time as well. But when I was taking that, now it's the time I thought I could just come off it. And I tried to come off it in one day, my body started shivering and shutting down and stuff. And I said, what's going on? So I spoke to my doctor and I said, you can't do that. You got to wean off it. You know, so I had to have a program of weaning off it. And it took me a good 3-4 months to, you know, fully wean off that because my body doesn't get shocked. The reason why I bring this to your attention is because just like drugs, like, you know, opioids and stuff like that, is addictive. We have to identify what the addictions are in the world. Like, I think that's the first stage of the AA, right? We can't be in denial about this stuff. Social media is addictive. Chocolate can be addictive. Coffee can be addictive. Love can be addictive. And it's probably the most powerful one of them all. Like, if some people are just addicted to falling in love all the time. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Sex can be a very, very, very addictive thing as well. You know, so these are things that, and that's why Ramadan is such a beautiful time. We've got a month coming up, and there's Ramadan, because it just forces you to strip away what you're addicted to. It disconnects you from all that stuff. And so I appreciate and I acknowledge that social media, whether it's distribution or consumption, is addictive. The way I try and deal with it is I have programs and routines. So, for example, I'll do 2 videos maximum a week. I won't look at the comments as much as I would look at them before. I just do my thing. You know, the screen time, generally speaking, my screen time is quite good, except for recently. I've been on Twitter for a long time, more than I usually do, because of the whole Elon Musk controversy. So I would monitor that stuff quite diligently and try and compartmentalize and routinize my life so that it's not, this addiction is a controlled addiction, if you want. And that if I wanted to and I could stop it and it wouldn't have a detrimental physiological, spiritual impact on me. And I think that's the furthest I can take it, considering it's kind of like what I do for a living, but that's the furthest I can take.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get back to this reconciling issue. There was something you mentioned in the interview or discussion, whatever you want to call it, with Daniel the other day, where obviously Daniel has been in a lot of public disputes as well. I'm not, you know, I already recognize that you and I have been in some as well. So I'm not just attacking him with that, but you had mentioned specifically Omar Suleiman and Yasser Qadhi. And you were, you know, suggesting, you know, maybe he could possibly reconcile with them in the future. He seemed to be, from my perspective, a little bit resistant to that. But what you mentioned to him, which
why are you talking about me? Let's talk about you. Come on, I'm ready to reconcile with you. Let's go. Invite me on.
Recently, since October 7th, so past year and a half or whatever it's been, he's been calling for unity with the Shia and Iran and all this kind of stuff.
I told you.
You pointed out that, at least from your point of view, that a lot of their beliefs, or I shouldn't even say a lot, but some of their beliefs are, in your perspective, far worse in terms of, and Daniel actually asked you, what do you mean actions or, you know, what they say and what they do? And you said both. And you mentioned several beliefs, right? You mentioned, I think, about their position on the companions, the Quran. And then you mentioned this belief of wilayat tekwaniya, which is, for people who don't know, basically some of, I'm not going to say all, but some, and a significant portion of the 12 or Shia believe that the 12 imams actually have some type of control over the entire universe, to literally where Khomeini explicitly said that the imams control every single atom in the universe. Every time an atom moves, imagine that. A human being who is dead is actually controlling everything, right? So you mentioned this, and I think Daniel, from my point of view, was a little bit caught off guard. He didn't really know how to respond.
No, not at all. Not at all.
This up, because you were saying, look, how can you say that we should
invite me on right now? I'll explain it to you. Have me come on, Jake, right now. Why are you talking about me?
Yeah, Yasser Qadhi and Omar Suleiman, maybe they have some issues, right? I think definitely Omar Suleiman, I will say, has improved. I don't know as much about Yasser Qadhi, but that's another issue. But
wait, Omar Suleiman thinks that Ash'aris are Sunni. How is he improved, according to you?
They don't believe, at least as far as we know, they don't believe in this wilayat tekwaniya stuff. They're not calling for the slaughter of
how do you know, Jake? Have you Aqidah tested Omar Suleiman and Yasser Qadhi?
Point of why he thinks that we should be uniting with them, but yet he's not willing to really unite or reconcile with Yasser Qadhi and everything. So, but about this belief specifically, wilayat tekwaniya, because this has been discussed between Daniel and I recently, is it your position that that is clear-cut kufr?
More than that, I think it's also shirk, to be honest, because
Yeah.
so for example, Khomeini's belief and those Shias that preceded him, who say that, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu Ali ibn Abi Talib, the 12 Imams, or anybody else can control the atoms of creation, can create, and these kind of things, or that they are all powerful or all knowing. And then they say, well, actually, so long as it's istiqlal, it's okay.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Istiqlal is the idea of independence. So long as there's independence,
as long as it's given to them, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's first of all a logically defunct position, because all the mutakallimun are in agreement of the impossibility of there being two all-powerful agents. I mean, that's the whole thing of the Dalil Tamana anyways. The Dalil Tamana shows you the impossibility of two all-powerful agents. I mean, that's how I see it. So the fact that even if you want to say that independence is to Allah, but then there's Allah is all-powerful, and the Prophet Muhammad is all-powerful, and the 12 Imams are all-powerful, such that they can create atoms and regenerate them and this and that. I think this is defunct logically, and it's actually shirk akbar, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely.
Yeah.
I mean,
this kind of thing,
because he conditioned it on it being istiqlal, if it's independent power.
Many debates many years ago now with Shia, but I had many debates with Shia, and I've always brought that to their attention. So that's the first thing. Tahrif al-Quran just adds the cherry on top of the cake. So with someone like Khomeini, I'm not convinced that the man is a Muslim. I mean, I'm not convinced that there's enough to say that he's a Muslim, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I believe he's a kafir. I mean, he explicitly affirmed this belief of wilayat taqwaniyah. I mean, he has many other problematic beliefs, but anyway.
Did Khomeini say he believed in independent power of the Imams? Because that was the condition that Hijab gave.
Much of their works back in the day when I used to be involved in Shia stuff, to know that they actually do affirm those, a lot of them do affirm those positions.
Do, yeah.
Like Tahrif al-Quran, some of them say that, the Quran is not complete, it's only 1/12 of what the Quran is now. You've got the Fatimid Quran, you've got this and that. I'm sorry to say, I don't believe, if that's what you're saying, and you're writing this book,
no Shia today, the majority, vast majority, they don't believe in Tahrif of the Quran.
In fact, at what point so you can reject the Quran, you can believe in this and that and the other, and you can still be a Muslim? I don't think so. So on that point,
just have me on. We can talk about it. We can talk about all this. You can challenge me.
However, there have been extremists who have been making takfir of Daniel Haqiqatjou. They are extreme. People who have come out.
Not me.
Yeah, not yourself. There have been some extremists going on the other, actually doing takfir tasalsuli. Okay, because they would, for example, he's saying that, I don't know, he believes there's an udhr to be given to Khomeini. This is my understanding of the mas'ala.
Yeah, no, but even that, but hold on a second, brother. There's one issue, and Daniel keeps conflating these issues, right? So I want to be very careful. I don't want, to misrepresent him and also to represent me or some of the other people on the other side. You have the issue of whether or not the belief, right? And we've spoken about this recently a lot, whether or not the belief itself constitutes as kufr, and then whether or not you make individual takfir on that person. Right now, if someone said, well, I don't know, maybe I'm not sure if this particular person, whether it be Khomeini or anyone else, is a kafir, okay, I would discuss with that person. But if you tell me that
that's literally what I've said. In
fact, the belief is not even kufr, such that it's not shirk akbar, it doesn't even have the potential to take someone out of the fold of Islam. Now, that's a whole other story.
That's what Hijab just said to you. He said that if the belief is independent power, then it's shirk akbar. But what if you don't believe in it being an independent power?
I think
we don't even need to speculate, because I can show you this.
No, but are you talking about al-istighatha? Are you talking about his position?
No, forget. We'll get to istighatha later, not right now. But I'm saying wilayat taqwaniyah, controlling all the atoms. That's on a whole nother level. I mean, it's connected to istighatha in the sense.
Belief in controlling the atoms independently from Allah or not. That's the whole question.
Control over the universe, and they can give them whatever.
Come on, invite me on.
So it is connected in some way. But leaving istighatha aside for a second, just that belief of controlling all of the atoms, this is clear-cut shirk akbar. Now, Daniel, I can show you sort of the evolution of what he said. He originally said, or gave the impression that he didn't believe that it was actually Kufr Akbar. So people were criticizing him. But then he came out.
That's
and
what
he made
Hijab
a
just said
very
himself.
clear public statement of saying, yes, it is Kufr Akbar. However, then after that, just like a month ago, and I have the clip here, when he was speaking about Khomeini, which he was aware that Khomeini had this belief at that time, because I had made a whole video about it, and he responded to it and everything. He said, all of the beliefs of Khomeini, some of them may be haram or bid'ah, but they never reached the level of kufr or shirk akbar.
Yeah, he might not have read it. I mean, there's too many.
No, Akhi, he responded to it. He's aware, and when he made this statement, he was aware that this was Khomeini's belief.
No, how do you know? How do you know Khomeini's belief?
Twitter, and he never
how do you know what
back.
he actually
I mean,
says?
Listen, he could shut me up right now if he's on the live stream because he's watching this right now.
I can right now.
He can say, Jake, I believe that wilayat taqwaniyya, the belief of Khomeini, and maybe some of the extreme Sufis who believe this, I believe clear cut that this is shirk akbar, and anyone who believes in it is a kafir. If he says this, no problem, no issue. But
I'll say the exact same thing that Hijab said.
Right, and I told you this privately. Do you guys, I mean, do people actually think that I want Daniel to be upon
is this the gripe? Is this the gripe then? Because I saw, I'll be honest.
This is one of the gripes, brother. This is one of the big gripes that I have with Daniel. I mean, how can you
invite me on? Invite me on.
Being can control the entire universe, and this is not shirk akbar. I mean,
Hijab told you that it depends.
Since he's on live, he's going to say, "Listen, I believe." I can almost guarantee that he's going to come out and say,
"Yeah, if you think that there's an independent power,
the universe that is
shirk akbar, yes,
is as powerful, is as knowledgeable, or anything, any of the attributes singularly, not even in combination."
Yes,
I'm going to say any taqwiyah with any sifa of Allah is shirk akbar. I'm pretty sure he's going to come out and say,
"Okay, let me show you this. Let me just share my screen." Right,
Jake doesn't want to actually represent my views.
Here, let me tell you this, brother Hijab. If he came out and said this right now,
right now, I'm saying it.
So happy, right now, you have no idea. Honestly,
I've said it so many times. I've said it so many times. I've said it so many times.
When we confirm that
invite me over,
then that's it. Then you and him.
He needs to state this. He needs to.
If he says this statement.
Unfortunately, Jake is ignorant in the distinction that Hijab made.
I would say right now, very honestly, that is the biggest issue between him and I right now. There are some other issues, right? We can discuss about uniting with the Shia and other, but those are much, in my opinion, lesser than what we're talking about here.
It depends on istiqlal. It depends on independence. Exactly what Hijab said.
Ibn Taymiyyah has a clear position on these, what do you call it? Ta'awun al-birri wa taqwa and maslaha with the innovators and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? He does agree with it. He accepts it.
Yeah, and I even said, I've said many times, I'm not in that position, but if I were in the position to go and do jihad with people who I believed were innovators, just as Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qudama did, I believe this is fully permissible. No problem.
Yeah. And also, and another issue, people don't know this, and I think for the audience, it would be nice for this point to be made. Since the whole thing about istighatha has come up, and so I might as well make this point. That Ibn Taymiyyah wrote this book called Al-Raddu al-Bakri, and I'm sure you're aware of. But al-Bakri was an individual who basically went back and forth with Ibn Taymiyyah on the issue of al-istighatha, and actually al-Bakri made takfir of Ibn Taymiyyah because he didn't believe in al-istighatha. It was very
that's pretty shocking, yeah.
But here's the thing. Ibn Taymiyyah wrote this book, Raddu al-Bakri, and in that book, there is no takfir muayyan that Ibn Taymiyyah makes on al-Bakri. This is a very shocking thing. In addition to this, it's very interesting. Al-Bakri became an outlaw and a fugitive in wherever he was, the place, whatever city that he was in.
Yeah.
And Ibn Taymiyyah actually harbored him. He had him in his house. He was safeguarding him from the authorities, in fact, when they were trying to kill him. So the point I'm making is that there is a world of difference between the abstract discussions that people may have on issues like al-istighatha and issues like who's constitutive, who constitutes Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah and who's not, and تكفير معين or تبديع معين, which is
Yeah,
like,
we agree with that. Yeah, and those are going to be ijtihadi issues. For example, you and I on a particular position, we may
Yeah.
have the same position that it's kufr or shirk akbar, but when it comes to declaring that person a kafir, or even in the case of it being bid'ah, declaring that person a deviant, we may
Yes.
have different ijtihad. We may say, we may even to the point where we could enter into the same room, speak to the same person, and say, I could turn around and say, I believe, brother Hijab, that this person is a deviant. And you
Yeah.
could turn around and say, I don't know. I think there's still some doubt. He's still confused or he doesn't understand. That's fine. That's not really what the issue is.
That's
the issue
fine.
is if you don't even believe that the position itself is in the category of bid'ah, or in the case of takfir, in the category of kufr, then there's no even possibility of an agreement. We don't even agree on the status of the belief. And I think that that's important.
Said so many
dangerous. Why?
times. It's
Because if
shirk
you
and
lessen
kufr depending
how
on if it's an
serious the
independent
crime
power or
is,
not.
in this case,
How many times have I said
against
that?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you won't have as less emphasis in warning against this. This is a very serious belief, wilayah
Yeah,
takwiniyah.
but I'll be honest, in my journey, like I started off as quite a hardliner as well. We don't know. I mean, it wasn't something that.
The other thing is, does Jake
I
takfir all the
actually
Brailvis?
publicized, 'cause, you know, I started to
Like, does
practice maybe when I was like
does
17,
Jake
16, 17
takfir
properly, and I
someone
started
like
looking into the different
Asrar
varieties.
Rashid
And I was
that Muhammad Hijab is working with
engrossed in
or
Salafism.
has met with
Like,
and
I
worked
was
with?
a hardliner, I would say. Obviously not a medkhalist, okay, and obviously not a takfirist, but I was pretty much a hardliner. And I'll tell you where it started to fall apart for me in terms of this whole bid'ah question. Okay, the bid'ah and takfir question. Yes, I came across the same, you know, aqwal and stuff like about who is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and the stuff that we went through together as well, which is about, like, yes, for example, how the early Hanbalis and Ahl Hadith and stuff like that considered this group to be Ash'aris or the Maturidis to be Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and that was essentially the position in Hanbali school in the early times.
Yes.
With the exception of a few like the Tamim family and other people like this. And obviously afterwards with Safarini and Safarinaya, he mentions that all three schools of thought are Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
Yeah, but with Safarini, as we discussed, when it comes to interpreting the hadith about the saved sect, he explicitly says the only saved sect is Athariya. So
I believe that.
People have to understand that, because he still considered them to be a deviant group, right? He didn't consider
no, but he didn't make tabdi' of the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. He did consider them to be in Ahl Sunnah. Then he just said that the akhas, man al-akhas, is basically, you know, the Ahl Hadith.
But yeah, but what is it? But we have to understand, when he said that he considered them to be a part of Ahl Sunnah, we have to take his other statements that he made about them, that therefore then contextualizes that, right? He didn't say that, that their opinions are acceptable, right? He didn't say.
No problem. But the point I'm making is these are all what you would call ta'silat, so the abstractions of the rulings and stuff. Now, when they're very important. But when I was kind of like, you know, growing up and learning about this kind of stuff and then thinking about it and then seeing how different scholars describe different other scholars of the past, I started to realize that there's a lot of contradictions going on. So, for instance, like almost every Salafi scholar that I have ever come across had praised Ibn, for example, An-Nawawi and Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, these two individuals, right? And then when you look at their shuruhat of the hadith and stuff, they're clearly doing ta'wil of nuzul. They're clearly doing things which Ash'aris would do, like generally speaking, whether you want to classify them as Ash'aris or not, but they were doing this stuff. And for example, in the case of Ibn Qudama, we mentioned him, he was doing things which some people would say is amounts to tafweed. Abu Ya'la is clearly doing tafweed. I mean, my reading of him, Sheikh Ujayri agrees. I think he was telling me himself that he's the one who told me, in fact, that he believes Abu Ya'la was doing tafweed in his book, and so on and so forth. So you have these figures, okay, like Ibn Qudama al-Maqdisi, you have Abu Ya'la, you have Ibn Aqil, you have Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, you have An-Nawawi doing imma tafweed or imma ta'wil, all these kinds of things. And you don't find, there's a reluctance from the broader, you know, al-Hadith and Hanbali collective to take them out of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So when I realized this point, I said, okay, so what is the threshold then? how much do you need to be making errors in Aqidah, if you want to call it that from our perspective, in order for you then to be removed from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? So I realized that actually this is highly subjective. There is no codified there is no codified exact set of rules that say, okay, once you've crossed this threshold, you're out. Once you're not in this threshold, you're in. There are some things which you could say everyone agrees on, like Shiaism, the Mu'tazilism, all this kind of thing. Everyone agrees. If you go into these kinds of issues here, the Kalam of Allah, some Masail, yeah, no doubt about it. But when it's actually applied on the Mu'ayyan, when it's actually applied on the individual, you see lesser or greater degrees of concession that are given. And if you want to, so my thing is, if you want to give concession to Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, if you want to give it to a Nawawi, if you want to give it to this person, that person, there's no problem. So then now we have to say, okay, we're concessionary. We're being concessionary.
Yeah, but we have to look at why some scholars may be concessionary and why others aren't, and then weigh the evidence of what they present. As I said, we can disagree on whether or not a specific person is a deviant. Yeah. That's ijtihad, right? There's no problem with that. The problem is when you say that the belief that they had it's possible that their belief is correct, meaning that it's not deviant, and maybe they're correct and I'm wrong. That's different. That's like when we're talking about issues of fiqh, the difference between maybe an issue in the Maliki school versus the Hanbali school. I can say, yeah, I follow this opinion, but maybe the other one is correct. Allahu alam. There's a chance that I'm wrong. But when we talk about, for example,
same with
I've got a
Aqidah.
question then. As they say, for example, if someone believes, like the Tamimi family believed, or like a Safarini, or someone else, that actually, okay, Safarini probably does not believe that actually, but let's just say if someone does believe in the opinion of a Dedo, for the sake of argument, which is that all three schools of Aqidah, which is like Maturidiyya and Ash'ariyya and Hanbalism, all three of them are kind of valid ijtihad. Okay. Now I'm not saying I agree or disagree with that. I'm just saying that let's say if someone believes in that, the belief in that, is that a bid'ah belief that takes someone outside of the scope? Is that belief itself something that takes someone outside the scope of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Do you see the question?
It definitely has the potential to take them out of the fold. Yeah.
Okay, so
that's what we were discussing. But
if you got like a ta'wil, someone, so for example, if someone makes ta'wil of
that's what I mean. Of course, we have to, when it comes to putting it on the individual, but the belief itself, which is what we discussed, since you mentioned it, but I don't think it's really a big deal. We won't mention who was there, but Sheikh Wajeri was there, and we discussed this specific issue, and he agreed with me that yes, first of all, none of the early Hanabila really had this position. He was saying he had the same explanation as As-Safarini as I did. He had the same understanding, and he said, yes,
the early Hanabila takfired non-Atharis. Do you have that position, Jake?
Bid'ah would mean that you would have to take the position of Dedu, which is that, there's a possibility that I can be wrong, that they're making ijtihad and they're correct and I'm not. Now, definitely on some foundational issues, as Atharis or whatever title you would like to go by, Ahlul Hadith, whatever, we cannot make that concession. We cannot say,
let's say, for example, someone like, I think we were talking a little bit cross purposes because the question I asked was a little bit more delicate. I was not saying, okay, that's a fine belief, and I think that is probably, I have to say, the majority opinion in Ahl Hadith Hanbali. Which is that this is not a valid difference of opinion, that this is bid'ah. Like for example, on the Kalam of Allah, the Hanbalis were very, very clear about the situation that they would actually make tabdi'a on that issue of the Ash'aris, of the Maturidis, of everybody.
They make takfir. The early Hanbalis made takfir.
Even Ibn Qudama says that the Ash'ari belief, he says it's kufr and it's worse than the belief of the Mu'tazila.
I've seen all of that. But what I mean,
so why don't you take that position?
Is a little bit more delicate than that, which is the following: if someone believes that, if a Hanbali Athari believes that the Hanbalis, or the Atharis, and the Ash'aris and the Maturidis, if they have that belief that all of them are Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah and that this is a valid difference of opinion, right? That belief itself, is it enough to take that person out of Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah? And if it is, what's the evidence of that? There must be some evidence from Quran.
That's what Jake says.
Ijma'. Because
remember I'm saying this is what we discussed. As I'm kind of repeating myself. Forgive me, but this is what we discussed with Sheikh Ojeri. He said I mean, and we could have another meeting about this. I don't have any issue.
No,
But
present
as
the
far as
evidence
I understood
yourself.
what he said the reason why it's a
Appeal to
deviant
authority.
position that can take you out of Ahl Sunnah. Obviously, there was another brother there. I'm not going to mention, but we had a discussion with him, and he had this, in my opinion, shubha. And by the end of it, he was sort of convinced by the discussion. Now, I made very clear in that discussion, I didn't say he was a deviant. I said that his belief was deviant, and that I think if he or anyone else persists on it, that yes, it has the potential to take you out of Ahl Sunnah. The reason why is because when you say that, what you're saying is it's possible that the Ash'ari position on Kalam Allah is actually correct. No, you cannot say that.
Yeah, sure. So let's say we cannot say that, and it's wrong to say that. But if someone does say
it's
that,
deviant to say that. It's deviant to say that. That's what I'm saying.
Let's also say it's deviant to say that.
Man, hijab is a
someone
deviant.
Does say that, do they leave Ahl Sunnah by saying that?
Again, we have the same. We have similar conditions for making takfir on someone as we do with declaring a particular individual a deviant, right? So as soon as someone says that, I'm not going to say, yeah, you're a deviant immediately.
Okay,
but we're going to have, just like our meeting, we're going to have a discussion. We're going to say, what do you mean by this? Is there a ta'wil to your statement? Is there ignorance?
There is no ta'wil. Let's say they have no ta'wil to the statement. There's no excuse of ignorance.
Okay, by the end of it, let's say, for example, by the end of it, let's say in the case with that brother, I wouldn't even say after one meeting, but after we've exhausted the full discussion and the person fully understands.
He's had 0 meetings with me and labeled me a deviant
belief, and they're stubborn upon that, and they want to maintain that position. Then yes, eventually, then they can be declared.
My question is that if that's the case, why don't
he's
we
had
make
0?
Nawawi? Because in Nawawi, we can't say that he doesn't know the hadith. He's the best, one of the best muhaddis of all time. And so he, for example, does ta'wil.
Good question.
Does ta'wil of the nuzul of Allah. He talks about the angels and stuff like that. So it's so, like, for example, the doing ta'wil of, for example, of the names and attributes of Allah, etc., etc. If doing ta'wil can be excused and the bid'ah is not passed upon him by almost essentially every single major scholar of the Salafi
but they would
school.
still say, those scholars, that those beliefs that they expressed, they would say those were deviant beliefs. They might not declare
make
tabdiyah
of the person.
Those beliefs are deviant.
Make tabdiyah of Nawawi and Ghazali.
We can't say.
But I'm saying in the case, I'm saying, yeah, you're saying, so why don't we declare a Nawawi a deviant?
Yeah, because we can't say what. It would be quite ridiculous to say a Nawawi.
Nawawi is popular. That's why everyone likes him. So then we can't make tabdiyah.
But let me explain the other aspect. So the other aspect is also the usul of the person. How are they? What are they using? What tools are they using? And what principles are they using to arrive at their belief? Right. And this is something that Daniel asked me recently on Twitter, which is a good question. Right. Sometimes someone could have, and this is the case in Ahl Sunnah, sometimes you could have the correct usul, but based on those principles, you use whatever your ijtihad or whatever it is, and you come up ending at the wrong position, right? And maybe even a deviant position. That person is going to be viewed differently than someone who is using completely deviant principles, completely deviant usul, compared to the person who has generally the correct usul, but arrives at the wrong ruling, right? For example, you could have one, and this is what I posted, right? We know the famous Shafi'i position on the beard, right? They don't have the position that you must grow the beard all the way to fist length or let it go all the way down. This is a famous position that they have. Now, I disagree with that opinion. Not that my position really matters because I'm not a faqih, but I disagree with that position. But it's different based on if they're trying to use evidence or dalil from the Quran and Sunnah or from the statements of the Salaf to arrive at that position, but they come off with the wrong position. Versus if you had someone who was a modernist today and said, oh no, letting the beard grow is completely backwards, and it's like these Arabian barbarians and all this kind of stuff. Do you see the difference between that person?
I know what you're saying, but let me see if I've interpreted what you're saying correctly. So, for example, you have masadr al-tashri'ah, right? So you have the sources of Sharia. And
Yeah.
all the usulis agree that it's Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', Qiyas, and then you've got like all the other ones. Tufi mentions 11, for example, right?
Yeah.
And to my understanding, all of the, even the Mu'tazilis use this taxonomy essentially. Like all the schools of Sunni school, Sunni from the wider perspective, because Ibn Taymiyyah did mention that Mu'tazilis are part of Ahlul Sunnah from the wider sense, not the
in the sense that they're not Shia. Yeah, we accept
yeah,
that.
the sense they're not Shia and Minhaj Sunnah. But let's say for the sake of argument,
That's
now
not what
that,
he said.
if they're all using the same kind of usul in that sense, because when you say usul,
But they're not, Afi. They're not. I mean, I can give you an example where they're not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is well known that the usul of the mutakallimin is not the same as Ahl al-Hadith. I mean, this is well known and discussed. I mean, even their how can you say, their method of interpretation of texts, right? This is what Ibn Taymiyyah wrote a whole text refuting
Hijab shouldn't let him get out of declaring Nawawi and Ghazali and Ibn Hajar as deviants. He shouldn't let him wiggle out of that.
This is what arises from,
because their usul of Nawawi and Ghazali were Ash'ari usul.
They have vastly different.
So according to his definition, they should be deviant.
That's why they arrive at different. It's not as if they have completely the same usul in mind, and then they read the text and they come away with vast different opinions. Sometimes that can happen in very specific cases, but it will be extremely rare if the person has the same usul as what I'm calling Ahl Sunnah or Ahl al-Hadith, and yet on so many different issues, they vastly disagree. This is not really.
For example, like because I know that the Ash'aris differ on this. The whole Aql and Naql thing is usually attributed to Fakhruddin Razi, right? But let's say, for instance, we found an Ash'ari, fully fledged Ash'ari or fully fledged Maturidi, who says he prioritizes the Naql over the Aql rather than the Aql over the Naql. And there are lots of them that do say that. So for the sake of argument, right? Would that mean, from your perspective, that the usul are in place so that whatever interpretation there can be ma'thur because of?
So I mean, the interesting thing, see, and this is where we're getting into more technicalities.
Trapped.
The interesting thing with the Ash'aris is what you will find them is that on almost every single, and I challenge, and I will speak on this issue in more detail another time, on almost every single issue where the majority, let's say the majority of Ash'aris oppose Ahl al-Hadith, you will always find like one of them actually coming away with the same opinion, right? Even on the example of, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak with letters and sounds, right? I can actually show you a major Ash'ari scholar that says yes. But what I'm telling you is, generally speaking, because of their usul being different and problematic, that leads to the majority of them not having that position and having the incorrect deviant positions. You understand my point?
Well, make tabdir then. So call their scholars deviants, like Ghazali.
And Nawawi, right?
Yeah.
And Nawawi, the end result is that he is doing ta'wil. The end result of Ibn Hajar Asqalani is that he is doing ta'wil. That's the end result. Everyone agrees with that he does that. No Salafi disagrees that he does that in his sharh. Okay, or these two men do that. Now, the question at hand is, okay, so Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani is doing at-ta'wil in the sifat of Allah, but we are giving him an excuse because of the excuse that, well, he has usul which are such and such, which we don't know.
Some scholars do, and maybe some don't, right?
Which we don't know exactly what his aqli or naqli usul is, because that's not really that they don't really talk about in that capacity.
I know, but it can only be, Akhi, and I'm not claiming to be an expert here on this specific issue, so I'm not going to comment on it in detail. But this is all discussed by scholars.
You're not an expert.
They look at what appears to be an-Nawawi's usul, Ibn Hajar's usul. And yes, there may be even difference of opinion on that, and that's why some scholars may be more harsh on them and some be more lenient.
Yeah, but
right?
Like, if you talk about the Salafi scholars of our times, like Ibn Baz and Ibn Uthaymeen and Albani, none of them make tabdiya of him. Like these kinds of huge figures.
Yeah, and exactly.
So my issue is that, okay, so going back to the point.
I don't either, but I'm saying if someone came along and they wanted to present evidence, I would listen to what they had to say about this issue. Why? Because as I said, this can be where there may be genuine difference of opinion. I would agree with the person and say some of the beliefs that an-Nawawi or Ibn Hajar held were deviant, no problem. But making the individual, right, calling that individual a deviant, right? That is where there's going to be the dispute. And like you said, if the majority of the
He
shuyukh
declared me a deviant.
and
He
the
declared
great
me a
scholars
deviant.
that
He didn't have any conversation with
follow
me to do
are
that.
not doing that, that's going to give me caution. I mean, really, who am
Sure.
I?
So,
to be
but
doing
so
that?
here's
So-
the question. Here's the point. So, like, great. If we're giving them concession, right, on issues to do with ta'wil of the sifat of Allah. So you've got a Deobandi, Sheikh, Ma'alim, Mufti, whatever, right? Would you afford him the same ta'wil? If not, why not? So why would we have one standard with Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani and Nawawi, and not, for example, one?
Well, because first of all, with the Deobandi and Daniel actually, I'm laughing because Daniel made a statement, so I want to actually address it here. Daniel made a statement that Jake actually wants to kill all Deobandi scholars. He explicitly
According to your principles, that's what it leads to.
I'm going to bring it.
According to your
let me bring it up
principles.
right now, because
Bring it up.
yeah, let me show you this, because
Bring it up.
No, don't
he
concentrate on him, though. Don't concentrate. We'll come to it in a second.
No,
But
no,
Daniel,
come on,
brother, if
come
you did
on,
say
bring
that,
it
I
up.
don't think the brother is anything like
no,
that.
this is
Bring it up.
complete slander, Aki. So he
Come on,
says it's
Daniel.
okay.
Come on,
Oh,
Daniel. We're getting closer to the resolution, Akhi. We're getting closer here. Subhanallah.
If you see this on the screen, right? He says, he starts off the tweet refuting the claim that Ibn Abdul Wahhab and Jake, that Shah Wali Allah Adahlawi and all other Deobandi scholars are kafirs who should be killed. Now, first of all,
Read the tweet.
Ibn Abdul
Read it.
Wahhab is dead, and so is Shah Wali Allah. Anyway, I have never said anything like this. I don't
Based
believe,
on your principles.
and I'm just saying it here, I do not believe that Shah Wali Allah was a kafir. I do not believe that all
He was just a
Deobandi
deviant.
scholars are
He was
kafirs
just a
that
deviant,
deserve
right?
to be killed. This is an outright slander.
Read the
some of
tweet.
them
What's that?
Read the tweet.
Did you believe some of them are?
That what? Some of them should be killed?
No, it's that some of them are kuffar.
I mean, I don't know. I would have to investigate what they actually believe, right? But then
I'm just
further
trying
down,
to figure out where he got this from. I mean, if you're saying
I don't know where he got it from. He's
Please,
claiming
Daniel,
he's claiming certain things about
Checkmate.
Ibn Abdul Wahhab. He's then imputing that onto me as if I don't know where he's getting this from. But then
Read the
to make
tweet.
it worse,
Read it,
he
and you'll
says
get where
very
I'm getting it
clearly about
from.
himself. Okay, check this out. He says, "This
Read
is
the
why."
tweet.
Look at this. This is why Jake and his followers, even my followers, believe that I am a kafir who should be killed because my position is similar to that of Shah Wali Allah.
Daniel, don't say this stuff, Akhi. Daniel,
Yes.
No, read the tweet.
Daniel,
He
haram
skipped
alayk,
the
bro. We're
reasoning.
trying to
And this was
He
this is
skipped
posted
all of the
January
reasoning.
15th.
The poor man.
He
You're making
skipped
some
all
other
of the
man.
reasoning.
He didn't say it. They say you
Yeah.
should be killed, Akhi. Come on, man.
No,
He
no, I
skipped
never
all
said
of the
Daniel
reasoning.
or these Deobandi scholars should be killed.
This
And
is
also, look at this.
I heard something about Postman. Something.
Yeah, man, let them talk.
That's what it's the Postman.
Let them talk. I mean, for people who don't know, I used to work for the post office, right? I no longer work there. Daniel's using it as a dig at me. Daniel.
Don't tell me it's just personal, brother.
No. Daniel is using this. Daniel is using this as a dig. So I responded.
You call me shaitan.
I'd rather be a former person working for the post office than the former head of research for Yaqeen Institute. So thank you very much.
Yeah. You called me a shaitan and a deviant. You called me shaitan. You said go to hell.
At least
call
I
you
had a
postman.
halal job, I think.
This is funny, bro. This is
Yeah,
funny.
you
Okay,
were a
how about this now?
Quranist.
We'll put all this behind
You were
us. Now
doing
that we've
debates about
clarified,
being a
Daniel's gonna
Quranist.
come out and
Like
he's
this
gonna say,
is
I'm pretty sure that
childish.
Yeah, this and that, this some being the same as Allah. This is shirk akbar. I'm confident Daniel's gonna say it. He's gonna say,
I hope he would say this, but I don't think he's
gonna
going
come out.
to.
He's gonna say, I want to tell you, Tahrif Quran, what Khomeini believes, and I even think that when Daniel sees what this man Khomeini, what he said about Tahrif
Let's
Quran,
talk
I
about it.
believe he'll be
Invite
the
me.
first
Let's
one to
talk
say
about
he's
it.
a kafir. This is Khomeini, the
No,
kafir.
I mean, he saw what he said about the imams controlling the universe. This was not enough to say. I mean, honestly, this is clear cut.
You can't
He's
ask
gonna
me
come out and say
directly.
he's a kafir.
He can't ask me directly. Why?
Okay, let me share my screen. Let me show you something else here. Okay, let me show
This-
you
When he does
Daniel's.
that, my question is that it now? Is the beef done?
No, because I'm going to show you the next issue.
Okay.
This is the second major issue. Okay.
The postman thing wasn't
See,
that
Jake
bad.
wants to just make
No,
a stream
it's not
about
bad.
me
No, no
without
problem.
actually having me on
So,
to
okay,
address
here we
it.
go. So this
Just
is
why?
Daniel's former sheikh, in my view, spewing kufr and shirk. Let's take a
You
listen
know,
to
it's
this.
his chef. Did this guy teach him?
He used to. Daniel was recommending him. Now, to be fair, he since has said, "Oh, I'm not recommending people to him anymore." However, what is in the video and the fact of what this guy is saying, he does not. He explicitly said that he doesn't believe it's kufr and shirk. Right.
Mm.
So let me show you what he said. What he says here.
اسمعوا كلام العلماء ينادون النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بطلب الحاجات بدون حد.
And listen
مفتوحة
to how the
مفتوحة.
scholars of Islam asked the Prophet
مفتوحة
ﷺ
بدون نهاية.
for to give them with open-endedly.
أتعلمون صاحب قرة الأبصار؟
Do you know the author of قرة الأبصار?
العالم المغربي المتوفى قبل 500 عام.
The Moroccan scholar who passed away more than 500 years ago.
شارح ابن مالك وخليل.
The one who explained Ibn Malik and Khalil.
يقول يا رحمة للعالمين إنني بك استغفت للذي أهمني. بكل
He
معنى.
said, it is,
يا رحمة
Oh,
للعالمين.
for the
يا
worlds.
رحمة للعالمين.
Oh, mercy for the worlds,
إنني
I seek your
Yeah, he
help.
knows.
For
He knows.
استغفرت بك الآن. أريدك
seek
أن
your help
تغيثني.
I seek your I
أطلب إغاثتك الآن.
seek.
بادرني.
نعم, istighatha is not just seeking help. It's
أغثني
urgent.
مبادرة.
It's an urgent plea. I urgently seek your assistance
للذي أهمني عام.
for everything that I need, for everything that
لماذا
I'm
لا
worried about.
يقول للدنيا أو للآخرة أو للعلم أو للمال؟
Why didn't he say for the dunya, for the akhirah, for knowledge, for wealth? Why didn't he
أو
specify?
هذا القدر من المال أو هذا السفر.
Or just for this amount of money, or for this travel?
فاتح الباب.
He said for everything I'm worried about.
تفضل.
هل بمثل ذلك يجوز النداء للأولياء الصالحين؟
نعم يجوز النداء للأولياء الصالحين. نقول يا مدد يا عبد القادر الجيلاني، مدد يا أحمد الرفاعي عادي.
وهذا قال هل يوجد اختلاف عن الاستغاثة يعني
لا.
أنه حرام
لا
وليس شرك؟
لا 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 لا
That there is no,
لا.
is there a difference of opinion that
لا فرق
istighatha,
بين الاستغاثة لا
of course it's clearly not shirk. It's not shirk,
ولا بشيء.
impossibly shirk. That's not complete nonsense. Is it haram or not? Is there a
لا.
difference of opinion? There's not even a difference of opinion.
لا
before the
تبلغ الحرمة ولا الكراهة ولا شيء.
that it does not reach being haram or being disliked or
هذه
anything.
الأمة الإسلامية كلها.
This is done by the whole Muslim ummah. That subhanallah, somebody woke me up last night telling me that some people are calling me a kafir because of this.
بأنه يقول يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أعطني كذا.
Because I say, oh Messenger of Allah, give me this and that.
أو نقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يتصرف في الكون.
Or saying that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam
يتصرف بالموضوع.
that has can act or has a power or ability to act in the
أو تحت يده
universe.
الكون أو في
Or
قبضته.
that it was given control
نعم
of things in the universe.
أقول ذلك.
That yes, I say
هذه عقيدتي. فإن من جودك الدنيا خيري الدنيا والآخرة.
that from your goodness is the goodness of this world and the next.
ومن علومك علم اللوح والقلم.
And from your knowledge is the knowledge of the tablet and the pen.
هذا قروه العلماء.
This is something that the scholars agreed upon and passed down.
هذا أقروه العلماء.
They approved of this.
وهذا يوسف النبهاني يقول هو العبد يمدح النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول هو العبد عبد الله سيد خلقه له الكون عبد كون عبد. هل المالك يتصرف بالعبد ولا يتصرف به؟
So he said he is the slave of Allah.
العبد الكامل العبودية.
He is the slave
عبد الله كامل العبودية.
slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who is the
له الكون العالم.
the one who to him all the rest of the universe is a slave to him.
هل السيد يتصرف بعبده ولا يتصرف؟
Does the slave have does the master have control over his slave or not?
له الكون عبد والزمان خدومه.
He said that the whole universe is his slave and all of the time is his servant.
لماذا ما يقول العلماء أن هذا كفر؟
Time is in his service. Why didn't the scholars say that this was blasphemy and disbelief?
لماذا لا يقول العلماء أن البصيري أشرك بالله تعالى؟
Why didn't the scholars say that Busayri was doing shirk?
ولماذا لا يقول يوسف النبهاني كان مشركا كاملا؟
And why didn't they say that Yusuf al-Nabhani was a complete mushrik?
هو ما قال له الكون ما قال كون عبد ما قال يتصرف فيه قال هو عبد له.
He didn't just say he had control over things in the
لا
universe.
قال رئيس وقال
He said
عبد.
he was the master, that the universe was his slave.
ولكن ألم يخبركم الله تعالى ويخبركم نبيه أنه تجاوز الوقت والزمان؟
But did Allah not inform you, and did his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam not inform you that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam
تجاوز
beyond the boundaries
الأمكنة والزمان
of space and time
بدون خلاف.
without any difference of opinion?
وأنكم إن اتهمتم أحدا بالشرك بهذا فعلى مذهب الإمام الشافعي كفار.
Then know that if you
اتهمتم أحدا
accuse someone of shirk
بهذا الرأي
for having this opinion, then in the opinion of Imam al-Shafi'i, you are disbelievers.
لأن هذا لم يقل أحد أنه كفر من المسلمين.
Because
إجماع الأمة قبل ابن تيمية.
the agreement and the consensus of the Ummah before Ibn Taymiyyah is that this is
لا يشك فيها أحد.
this is not shirk. This is not.
لا يشك
No
فيها
one
أحد.
even doubts in it.
But can you ask? What's not allowed to ask from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Can you ask the Prophet, ya Rasulullah, guide me and my family?
Yes. Yes.
There you have it. So, I mean, is what this man, who's Daniel's former sheikh, right? Is this what he's saying here? Kufr
Well, I
and
mean,
shirk?
just because, look, let's be fair, just because he's a sheikh, it doesn't mean he shares all the opinions. I mean, sometimes
No, he doesn't. He doesn't share this opinion.
Sure.
But here's the question: is what this sheikh, Daniel's former sheikh, is what he's saying kufr and shirk? Daniel refuses to say that what his former sheikh is saying is
Lie,
kufr and shirk.
lie,
Very
lie.
clear. This guy
Lie.
said that
if
the
he says
Prophet
he comes
Lie.
out and he says, look, this what he said about tasadruf al-kawn and lahul alam and asking for guidance and all this kind of thing.
he literally said the Prophet, peace be upon him, controls time and space.
Yeah, I know.
Why don't
So
you
if Daniel
ask
comes out
about
and says this is all
istiqlal?
kufr and shirk, is that it? I'm
This is the second big step in the right direction.
no, but
That's
if he
what
does, it's done.
But in
So
fact,
You're
he-
lying about what I've said.
Now that
It's
if we
pure lie.
establish those two things, because I have confidence that that's his belief. I have
well,
confidence.
you're more confident than other people because he's been saying exactly the
said it
opposite.
mo-
Akhi.
You
gonna come out and
lie.
say that this
You're
is
a
kufr
liar,
and shirk.
dude.
He's
Just
gonna come out
have
and
me
say
come
that
on
this
and
tasarruf
clarify.
al-kawn lahu al-alam,
Not
this
your
and that, you can
lies.
ask for guidance from the Prophet is
Yes,
more
astaghfirullah.
akin to Christian belief. He's going to come out and say this, no doubt about it. And then now that you understand his position, because that's going to be definitely what he says, then is there going to be something left to be said before there can be convergence again between you guys?
That's the most. I mean, that would be.
You can't even talk to me. You can't even talk to me. You can't even ask what I think directly in a conversation.
There's a couple more. I know we only have about 20 or so more minutes,
But
but
when he comes out and says, because I'm pretty sure he's maybe
I'll
saying
give
it,
you. There's another. If he says it, Akhi, I will say Daniel
Pure
retracted his
lies.
statement, or maybe I misunderstood him. I don't care. If he comes out and very clearly says
give your
what
word
he
on
said,
it.
what's that?
You've given your word on that point. If he comes out and says that,
100%,
Lying.
but
I've already
but
said
there's
it.
another
I've already
issue,
said it.
right? Which is, and
I've
I'll be
already
honest
said
with
it.
you, what I think happened, a lot of people are accusing Daniel of being an agent of Iran and stuff like that, and he's a crypto Rafidi and stuff. I don't believe that. I'm just gonna, for anyone who's been saying this, I don't believe that. What I believe happened.
You're saying it
was
yourself.
Daniel.
You
is
called me a
driven
Medkhali
mostly by
agent of
political
Iran.
things, and
You
for
said it
whatever
yourself.
reason, he has this political position of, axis of resistance and strong allyship with Iran and so on and so forth. Okay. But because of that, many Sunnis were being critical of him, especially when it comes to issues of how Iran has been treating Sunni Muslims in Syria and so on and so forth. And then it started to get into theological issues. They were bringing up some, wilayat takwaniya, these different beliefs. And I think what happened, this is my genuine belief, that what happened was because it started out as a political position and then went into theological matters, to somewhat justify Daniel's political position, he is not going around saying that he believes in this, but he lessened the seriousness of these beliefs to say, no, they're not kufr and shirk, they're just haram or maybe even bid'ah, but they don't reach that level, and so on and so forth. That's what I believe happened, because he was experiencing so much pushback to say, Akhi, how could you want to ally with these people who not only have done on the ground what they have in Syria and other places to Sunni Muslims, but on top of that, they have all of these kufri beliefs. How could you want us to unite with them? So to justify that, he has to lessen the seriousness. That's what has happened. And he did this with, this is probably the last example I'm going to give you. He did this with another belief, which is very common of the Shia, and I presented the proof for it. Daniel accepted that this is a common belief of the Shia, and he explicitly said in an actual debate, which was scheduled with two other Sunnis, he argued that this belief is not kufr, and it is clear-cut kufr, right? Which is the belief that the 12 imams of the Shia are greater in status and in rank than all of the prophets except for the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And Daniel said this position is bid'ah, but it's not kufr. This is clear-cut kufr. You can see Ibn Taymiyyah talks about this.
Basically, when I'm pretty sure when, if Daniel's going to review that, and he's going to see the verses in the Quran.
I already have reviewed it. I already have a long paper
where
on
it
it.
says, you know, that
long paper.
And so on and so
Of
forth.
course, there you go, Akhi. I did a video using this.
Bring me on. Bring me on.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that, you know, he's gonna say.
But Akhi, he did something worse. He actually said that the scholars never even spoke about this, and in fact, the scholars did many times in the context of, because not only in the case of the Shia, sometimes crazy Sufis like this guy that we just watched on the screen, they would make the awliya so great that they would compare them to the prophets.
Like, well, make takfir. Make takfir of that sheikh. Make takfir of that Sufi. Why don't you do that, Jake?
I agree with you that this is kufr because there's ayat Quran here, right?
Yeah,
however,
there's
yeah, sure, but here's let's go to another question which I was asking before, right?
Yeah,
which doesn't assume that he doesn't agree with us on this point. Let's assume
he argued against it in a debate.
Let's
bring me on. The debate wasn't about that topic specifically.
Again, let's say,
bring me on.
Is that belief that, because he doesn't believe what the Shia believe? Because if he did, that's a different question.
No, he doesn't believe it, but he's saying it's not.
But he's saying so. So my question is, Muhaddad, his belief that it's not kufr, is that a belief that would disqualify someone from Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah?
Of course, there's ijma on this.
No. This is not my question about. I don't mean if Daniel believes that the 12 imams.
No, if Daniel believes that it's not kufr, it takes him out of the fold of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
What's the evidence of that?
Because I'm just explaining to you. There's clear cut. You mentioned one ayah of the Quran. There's clear cut ayat of the Quran. There's clear cut ahadith. There's literally ijma on this.
There's clear cut ayat of the Quran that hellfire is eternal. Right? But Ibn Taymiyyah denies that. Is he Ahlul Bid'ah?
One single ijma.
Yeah.
And he's a Sunni. Does that nephew of the ijma take him out of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah?
Of course. Why not? When it comes to this of being, it's ijma on it being kufr. It's not ijma on it being.
I think we're getting the questions mixed up. Right?
What ijma?
I mean,
where's this ijma?
Where did you get this principle?
Where's the ijma?
If you go against something which there's ijma, that you leave Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, where does that come from?
Akhi, he's rejecting. Well,
where is the ijma that all prophets are better than all non-prophets? Where's the ijma of that?
That's what he's rejecting.
The ayah that you're referring to doesn't say that.
Right? Let's just deal with this. It's very clear. Okay, it's not open to all different interpretations and everything like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that the prophets, he favored them over the rest of the world, right? There's no
I mean,
that's a statement. It's a general statement.
There was a listing of the prophets. The
Quran also says that Bani Israel has been favored over all the world.
A bunch of prophets, of course, didn't mention everyone.
Bani Israel is also favored over all the worlds. Does that mean every member of Bani Israel is superior to every non-member of Bani Israel?
Even if you say he's greater than one prophet, if you say that, let's say one of the sixth imam is greater than, let's say, Musa alayhi salam. This is kufr. Even just
can I ask you a question then? All right. and this might be a bit controversial, but might as well. Could one argue?
You never asked a controversial question before in your life.
Okay, like Ibn al-Qayyim Ibn Taymiyyah had the view of Fana al-Nar. I don't think you're going to.
Daniel brought this issue
Thank
up.
you.
But here's the thing. So
Thank you.
Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn al-Qayyim believe that hellfire will run out. That's what they believe. Yeah. And how do we know that? Because Ibn Taymiyyah has two views, but the last view is the one that's represented by Ibn al-Qayyim and Shifa' al-Alil. He mentions it, and we know that generally speaking, Ibn al-Qayyim will represent the final view of Ibn Taymiyyah, right? And I think if you speak to Sheikh Hujayri or any of them, they'll do a clear of that. I think that's something
we can speak to Sheikh Hujayri about that. I don't have any problem.
Yeah, no, but I'm pretty sure that
now.
I have it in the past, and he's told me that
now.
This is their position, right? Having said that, like some would argue that this is mukhalafat al-ijma'. Some would argue that there are clear verses.
It's clearly not.
Some would argue
clearly not. There's nas of the Quran.
It says khalidina fiha. They are
abada. Khalidina fiha abada.
Yeah, I understand, but there's other ayats,
multiple ayats
that actually
multiple
explicitly
ayats
say. And let me pull it up here. I mentioned it. See, I went over this whole thing with Daniel already.
You didn't. You just dodged the issue. You dodged the issue, unfortunately.
No, hold on. Let me see if I can find it here. But there's an ayah, and even if you look at
yeah.
Even and if you look at, because I know you spoke about tafsir at-Tabari. If you look at the tafsir of at-Tabari under those two ayat, right, the one that you just mentioned, you'll see he actually brings narrations from the Salaf that are interpreted in a similar way. Hold on, in a similar way as Ibn Taymiyyah you think may, right? And I'm not saying that I have the same belief or it's correct, but there's not ijma. And even if you said, well, those narrations are weak,
less ijma on that than the other issue.
There's more of an excuse there. There's more of a discussion about that. Not on the issue.
Very subjective.
But who makes that?
Very subjective.
Because you have to look at the evidence, Akhi. You have to look at the evidence.
What evidence?
I think
what evidence?
He had a whole pamphlet refuting all of the hadith that claim.
I'm not
basically the athar of the Salaf, because what they use
I'm
is
not disputing that, Akhi, but then that becomes an issue over, yes, that was, let's say for the sake of argument, that this was Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim's ijtihad, and they believe that and again, going back to the usul issue, where are they deriving it from? They believe, let's say for the sake of argument, that they're deriving it from the Quran and the Sunnah and the Salaf. They don't believe that they're just dreaming this up, or that
that's what everyone says.
By
everyone
the principles
says
of the
that.
Mutakallimin and things like that.
Everyone.
So we know that generally speaking, they have the same
Ash'aris.
Maybe
everyone
they were acting
says
upon,
they are
let's
going
say,
back
a
to the
narration
Salaf.
from the Salaf.
Everyone.
Various ones that they believed were authentic. Sheikh al-Albani and other scholars say that they're not authentic. And let's say, for the sake of argument, I agree with that. There's a big difference between that and, someone from the Shia or someone even from the Mutakallimin who has entirely different principles and is coming up with all these ridiculous beliefs.
So if this is the case, then if we were to isolate areas of aqid, and if you want to call it that, kalam, where Ibn Taymiyyah spoke about things without necessarily, without having as a primary point the naql, and they have, for example, the aql instead, would that be considered to be deviance? Like, for example, for well the view that he has in hulul hawadith. So the way that Ibn Taymiyyah discussed hulul hawadith, and hawadith la awwala laha as well, which is like tasalsul.
Well, those are two different issues. We have to focus on one.
But let's just say like hulul hawadith for the sake of argument, right? So
which one? Sorry.
Hulul hawadith.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So when he speaks about hulul hawadith, he brings evidence. And he mentions.
How about you translate that for the audience, because they might not know what that means and what you're referring
Jake
to.
Might not know.
I know.
Jake might not know.
Ibn Taymiyyah mentions that Allah, there's something called tajaddud fi dhatillah. This is the phraseology that he uses, which means that there is a renewal in the essence of God, and he does use a naql evidence, but the points he makes are highly aqli. And in fact, the Salaf never spoke about it in the terms that he ever spoke about it.
Exactly.
There's no way.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I've written an entire article on this. I showed, I think, very clearly demonstrating that Imam al-Bukhari had the exact same belief. I even show later scholars interpreting Ash'ari scholars interpreting Imam al-Bukhari and saying that he had the exact same belief. I'm willing to defend that. And even leaving that aside, I think the Quran is very clear. Let's not get too confused about what we mean. All Ibn Taymiyyah is talking about, let's just give one example. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala spoke to Musa alayhi salam, did he speak to him after not having speaking to him? And then when he was done speaking to him, he stopped speaking to him? Meaning, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala genuinely act in succession? Does he do one thing and then do something else and do something else? It's very clear from the Quran and Sunnah that this is the case. So that's all Ibn Taymiyyah is talking about.
Sure, but what I'm trying to say is the following: that the breadth and scope of his articulation of this point, al-hawadith, and also tasalsul ila ma la bidaya.
Tasalsul is another issue, but I'm ready to defend Ibn Taymiyyah on all of these points.
I'm not saying he's wrong or he's right. I'm just saying that he's making points based on aql for the most part. And
I don't think so. That's what I'm disagreeing with.
All right, let's say he makes it. Let's say he makes it on naql. No problem. For the sake of argument, he makes it on naql. Yeah, because of course he does mention. I
think he mentions both points, but go ahead.
Sure, he does. He makes an argument from aql and he makes an argument from naql. He makes both.
Yeah, why? Because Ibn Taymiyyah, as opposed to some other of the early Hanabila, and I don't have a problem saying this, and this was behind even his book refuting Arazi, right? That reason, his position, which I follow, is that reason and revelation cannot possibly conflict with each other. So what Ibn Taymiyyah was doing is saying, look, yes, we have naqli proofs against you, and that is sufficient in and of itself. But I'm going to, quote unquote, play your game and show you that you guys think you're the champions of aql and reason, but in fact, you're not. Your own principles and your own beliefs actually contradict aql itself. There's nothing wrong with that, right? I know maybe some so-called Salafis don't really understand this issue and don't make sense of it, but there's no issue with that. But the asl and the fact that he actually goes to the naql shows that he's not doing it completely independent of any text. He's just showing, look, I can play your game and refute you both ways.
Even with the tasalsul, he doesn't do it independent of text. He makes a textual argument.
Well, he does, and you can disagree with that. That's fine. But and there's some Salafi scholars that do.
I'm not even agree or disagree. I'm just saying that at this point, the only thing is the breadth and scope of how he spoke about it is not like the way any Salaf spoke about it. Would you agree with that? Like, so no one went into the
like expanding on certain issues.
Yeah, from the aqli perspective.
No issue with that. There's no issue with that.
Yeah, I don't agree that. I don't believe there's an issue with that either. But the reason why I brought that to your attention is to show that this idea that aql and naql, there's a friction and there's usul and stuff. Ibn Taymiyyah had the same kind of view. I mean, do you know, for example, Ibn Rushd, who was a philosopher, he had the to the point where I think maybe Ibn Taymiyyah took the title from him, which is basically the same title but with different words. That there's no contradiction between aql and naql.
Yeah.
So
now they disagreed maybe on the details, but yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it's the same idea was there. Ibn Rushd, he was not even Ash'ari, he was a philosopher. It was making the same kind of argument as Ibn Taymiyyah. So do you know the reason why I brought this to your attention is that it's much more complicated than to say it depends on the usul, because there are some people that just say, like Ibn Rushd, like Ibn Taymiyyah, and some Ash'aris, who just simply say there is no contradiction between the aql and the naql. Therefore, if you use your aql, you essentially reach the same conclusion as the naql. You will never reach a different conclusion.
But then the difference is what are the aqli principles? That's where they disagree, right? Just like even the famous example, right, is Dalil al-Huduth of the Mutakallimin. Right, their whole argument and their whole idea is based on what you just said in the words, and this isn't necessary to use, right? Hulul al-hawadith, right? The fact that basically all it amounts to, because they believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is completely, quote unquote, outside of time. So if he were to do one thing and then do something else, that would mean that he's in time and he can't be in time. And they start bringing up all these other things. There's no ayat or a hadith that
Yeah, there are
حدوث
plenty.
الأجسام والأعراض
Plenty.
والأجسام.
exactly all of these principles.
They use
these are
weak
not,
hadith as
these
well.
these are what they call aqli principles that are not derived from the Quran and Sunnah, and which actually completely oppose it.
Ibn Taymiyyah has aqli principles which are not necessarily derived by Quran.
No, but they don't. But they never.
Bingo.
Even if they will never
Bingo.
contradict it. But what we're saying is
That's what they argue. That's what the Mu'tazilis argue.
That's
as
what
well.
they all argue.
Who made
They
the
all say
hadith
the same thing about that.
They would argue that they're not contradictory. So, for example,
yeah, but I'm saying they're very clearly contradicting them, man. I mean, obviously, there's
clear to
always going to be a
everyone.
problem of interpretation, right? Everyone can always say, Jake, I don't agree that it means that. But we don't stop there. It's just like the Qadianis who try to interpret the ayah that says that the Prophet ﷺ is the seal of the prophets. And they tell us, oh, no, it means this and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so there's always going to be a quote unquote problem of interpretation that you can try to come up with something.
Because what seems to be the sticking point here is that we're saying that so long as the usul are X, Y, and Z, then we can make concession for the person in question. But what I'm trying to show is
not all the time, because sometimes it could be the case, right? Let's say hypothetically, someone could have the correct usul, and then like on several occasions, they just come out somehow with these wacky opinions. I mean, let's say that's even
but they're not deviant then.
I'm saying let's grant that it's possible. Not that I think it really is, but if I grant that it's possible,
you said it's possible for Ibn Taymiyyah on hellfire.
The same position on the other person who has the wrong usul and yet comes to the wrong positions, right?
So
because
let's ask a question then. So like when we say usul, let's really clarify what we mean, because there's two things to talk about. It's a masadr al-tashri'ah, which is like the sources of the sharia. As we mentioned, the Quran, the Sunnah, the Ijma' and the Qiyas, the sources, and then you've got the other ones, the Maslaha al-Mursala, what do you call it, Shara' man qablana, this, that, and the other, all the 11.
I mean, mostly it's to deal with in this context, mostly what it's derived from are what the mutakallimin are calling their aqli principles. They're aqli principles that are not derived from the Quran and Sunnah, and not only that, clearly contradict it. That's when it becomes a problem.
Okay, but that's an issue of interpretation, because, for instance,
but everything's an interpretation.
In what do you call it, Sharh al-Isfahani, he will say that there are some things which are known by aqli darura aqliya. For example, he would say that a tasalsul of or infinite regress of like causal things is something known by the uqala. That's nothing. The mention of infinite regress is not in the Quran. So this is something he's bringing. Say, for example, the causal principle. He says that قاعدة السببية العامة, for example, or the causal principle. That's not something actually extracted from the Quran Sunnah in that explicit language, and so on and so forth. So he obviously has his own view of what is aqli acceptable and what is therefore in line with the Quran. My question therefore is, if a Mu'tazili and Ash'ari does the same thing with what they consider to be not contradictory to the Quran, also aqli principle, at what point do we say, okay, he has a right to do this and this other person does not have a right to do this?
Yeah, but I'm not granting that from the beginning, right? In other words, let me ask you this. Do you really believe that the so-called aqli principles that the mutakallimin are using, that they don't contradict the clear text of the Quran? Is that what you believe?
Which ones? Like which in particular?
Let's say, I mean, since you brought up the issue, let's say what is related to the fact that they say that anything that has how would you say it? Temporal origination, let's say temporal origination, or anything that is has hawadith in it, it itself must be hadith. It itself must have been originated. That's what their whole argument for the existence of God is based upon. If there's any sort of so-called temporal origination in an object or in a thing, then the whole of that being must itself be originated. Do you believe that contradicts?
Are you talking about Hadith al-Arad wa Ajsam of like Mu'tazilis and stuff? So not every.
I mean, they took this from the Mu'tazila. This is where they got it from. But the Ash'aris and Maturidis believe the same thing. This is why they reject. This is why they reject Sifat al-Ikhtiyariyah. That's why they reject it, because they do not believe that there can be any genuine origination, such that they don't believe that, and I've made videos on this, and they think it's a misrepresentation. They don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing anything right now. He's not doing anything right now. Because if he was doing something right now, yeah.
Without going into detail about that specific example, I did.
But this is the key. This is the key issue.
So basically, with Al-Ghazali,
he doesn't even let Hijab answer. He just interrupts him.
That particular dalil.
He did. He did.
He did in one area and then he didn't in another. And I think, I don't know, it seems to me the final position is he didn't really endorse it. Do you know of any place where Al-Ghazali is making dalil arad, what do you call it? Arad al-Ajsam.
I mean, I would have to pull it up. I don't have it right before me. But this is a known.
He doesn't make that argument at all.
Source, trust me, bro.
Ghazali uses this principle. I actually quote Ghazali in my paper. I wrote an article on this. I quote him.
The Telegram paper that you plagiarized.
I just don't have the source right now.
There's a
source.
Paper
trust me, bro.
Was written by Ayman Shahada. It's called Myriology in Kalam. It's a secondary source, very good actually. And he in some of the sections he mentions the people that endorse this particular hadith, this particular dalil, and people that don't. And then he starts.
No, but I'm talking about the principle itself, right? I'm talking about the principle itself.
Yeah. No, but what I'm saying is that if something, let's naftar jadalan, for the sake of argument, let's put aside all the sources and everything and all the different Ash'aris and Maturidis, etc. If someone believes that an atom is either sakin or mutaharrik or whatever it is that they start their premises with, the atom is either moving or is staying the same or whatever it is that they start. At what point do we say this person, because they believe in this, they're not Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah?
And not just about them believing in it, but where are they deriving it from? Again, it goes back to the usul. For example, a common person who calls himself Ash'ari, and maybe they attended one dars where this was explained and they accepted it. I'm not going to just call that person a deviant, right? We have to talk about where are they? So where are they getting
Ash'ari masses
from?
are not
what is
deviant?
It based on? And then
they're Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
Discussions with them and try to talk.
Is that what you're saying?
But the belief itself is definitely deviant, because what you're concerned with, and I appreciate it, I don't have a problem with, and then maybe we can sort of move to this topic, because this is really what we've been going back and forth about for a long time now.
No, stay on the topic.
Towards the end
Stop
of the
changing the
podcast
subject.
with Daniel, right, which was directly on this issue, where, and you can correct me if I'm saying it wrong or misinterpreting.
The whole stream is just about me.
That you would never declare an Ash'ari or Maturidi, someone who claims to be an Ash'ari or Maturidi, you would never declare them to be a deviant, right? That seemed like what you said, and it didn't leave any qualifications. So can you explain what you meant by that? And that's in the context of this.
No, exactly the same thing. If I'm willing to give, I think I mentioned it in the thing with Daniel, which is that if I'm willing to give a concession to Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, who's saying that Allah does nuzul, and that means the angels, and was clear ta'wil. At that point, if I'm doing it with him, if I'm doing it with Abu Ya'la, if I'm doing it with the Nawawi, if I'm doing it with Ibn Aqil, if I'm doing it with Ibn Qudama, then at this point, in terms of tanzil, in terms of application of the law, in terms of actually going to a person saying, you, fulan, are no longer Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, I have no right at that point. I will feel myself to be completely inconsistent if I say, well, you can believe in ta'wil because you have great usul, whatever that means.
Whatever
we don't know what his usul is, anyways. In Hajar or no, we don't know what that means.
I mean, scholars discuss it, but yeah, go ahead.
For the sake of argument, so I'm willing to give all these concessions to all these figures, but then for you, because you have happened to be, Diobandi, I'm sorry to say, but I'm going to have to make the deal with you. I consider you to be a deviant. Therefore, you're, all the.
You want to kill all Diobandis? I mean, just come out and say it. I mean.
So, no, but you see, I just don't see that's why I'm saying, like, okay, we can all make
but there has to be. This is what I think. I think your statement is problematic, Akhi. Why? Because
it's problematic. It's not deviant.
A potential for you're not
deviant?
saying like, well, if the person says or believes this, we can take a Nawawi or Ibn Hajar or any of these people. But let's take, because we just went over this example. The man who was just in that video, who's Daniel's former sheikh, and what he was just saying, right? If you had a discussion with him, and maybe amongst other shuyukh, maybe Sheikh Ujayri is there, I don't want to use him, but maybe he's there, and we discuss and we explain, and he doubles down, and he said, this is my aqidah, and I will die upon it. You're saying you would not ever even have the possibility of declaring this person a deviant? By the way, he himself
said
calls
that?
himself an Ash'ari.
Who said that?
Yeah, well, I think what the things he was espousing was not a representation of the Ash'ari school of thought. Like,
No, but I'm saying he considers himself to be an
Yeah.
Ash'ari. And there are other people who claim to be Ash'ari who believe this. Forget about, I'm not saying it's like an usuli matter that they must
I'll be
all
honest, and no disrespect to anybody, but he looked neuroatypical. He didn't look like he was in his right mind. No, he didn't. Like, I'm sorry to say that he might have other. He might be schizophrenic or anything of this guy. So me personally, the thing is,
Jake
I don't
laughs
take
at
it upon
takfir.
myself. I've left that behind me. That's in the juice is not
Yeah,
worth
but
it.
Aki, you don't
Not
see
worth
that
it.
as problematic. This person, okay, let's say
Yes,
someone,
yeah.
let's say somebody like him has the exact same belief, but is 35 years old, very clearly thinking. You've spoken to him many times. You have investigated this
Well, the
person. Is
question,
not
I think
Majnoon.
those comments about Tasarruf al-Kawn and someone being as powerful and all this kind of things is not about bid'ah or not. It's about kufr or not, actually.
Okay,
But what
so
people
but I'm
feel.
just saying, even to
But
make the
I actually think from Bab Asma al-Ahkam, the labeling people either into, because you can only label someone into three things, right? You can label them as a kafir, a fasiq, or a mubtada. These are only three options.
okay,
Yeah. And I think that labeling someone a kafir is actually much easier than label them a mubtada or fasiq. Fasiq is actually the
so
second.
what would you label a person like that? Would you label them a
You
kafir?
always find me more likely to label somebody as a kafir than label them as a mubtada, because mubtada is much more khafi, it's much more delicate, it's much more. The thing is, let me explain the reason why. Right, Islam in the things which are ma'lum min ad-dini bid-darura is very clear cut. Yeah,
Jake,
and in fact, the
dodging
Quran makes
all
that
of
clear.
hijab's
For
challenges.
example, that there are some clear-cut verses, and they are the mother of the book. For someone to become a kafir is pretty easy. All they have to do is choose one of the muhkamat verses and go against one of those verses and be iqamat al-hujjah be done on them.
Like
and
the one that says that the prophets are favored over the worlds, right?
No. That one's a little bit. That one's a little bit different. There's more ta'wil there and that. I mean,
Come on, Akhi. This is very clear. This is very clear. Anyway, go ahead.
Let me tell you why.
The difference between an educated person and an uneducated person. Everything is clear to Jake. Hijab is understanding the nuances.
If someone differs with this, there's a list of different prophets, and then Allah says that, so they can say it's khusus. There's a principle in tafsir that says al-ibra to be umum al-lafz la bi khusus al-sabab, right? That the principle is that it's with the generality of the words, not with the specificity of the context. But that's actually, if you read Itqan fi al-Quran by As-Suyuti, he mentions that actually that's a mukhtalaf fihi, a principle. So in other words, some people do believe that al-ibra to be khusus al-sabab, not be umum al-lafz, which means that the generality is not always prioritized over the specificity. So I can see that there's more room for interpretation on that one. I would never make takfir on that kind of issue. Having
Okay,
said
would
that,
you okay, let me say this. Would you declare someone a deviant, or is it, I'm just, because you said, the way you said it, Akhi, you said it as if it's not possible that you would ever do this, right? So I'm saying, is it in the realm of possibility that you would declare someone a deviant? I'm not referring to Daniel here, don't get it twisted, for believing that what this guy, Sheikh Salek, said about controlling all the atoms and controlling time and space, a created being doing that. If someone did not have that belief, but they said that it was not shirk, would you say that there's a possibility then to declare that person a deviant for saying that it's not shirk?
For whom? For whom? For a mujtahid? Or for the mu'ammi? Mujtahid has a right. Mujtahid has a right.
Well, I'm not referring to Daniel, but anyone.
You have made tabdiya. You said I'm a deviant.
A mujtahid has a right. A mujtahid has a right to make tabdiya for whoever they think. But for us, that's the problem. We're not mujtahid. We're mutaba. We're just people. We're essentially just people that follow.
But then you're. This is my point, Akhi. You're basically setting the standard and saying that none of us, unless we're mujtahids, that we cannot ever declare somebody to be a deviant.
No, I'm
That's
saying
not what
that
he
you
said.
can
Straw
declare
man.
people to be deviant with the fatwa of a mujtahid. So, for example, if you have a fatwa of a mujtahid, the mujtahid of your choice who says that such and such a person is a deviant because they say such and such a thing, you can follow that fatwa. Now, if the situation is like the person's a Shia, so almost everyone who agrees, because we said Masdar al-Talaqi.
Yeah, no, forget about the Shia. We agree on that. Okay,
So
let me give you
now-
a specific example. Let me give you. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, like, for example, if the mutabi' or the muqallid, he follows the mujtahid, he's allowed to follow the mujtahid, but that he has to understand that the fatwa of that mujtahid is not mulzim, it's not binding on anybody. So
No, but I know that we're talking again, Akhi. I know we talked about it before.
Again,
so I don't think it's sinful. If you follow somebody who says that such and such a person is a mubtada, and you believe that such and such a person is a mubtada, the person has done his job as a muqallid or as a mutaba, and he now is not sinful. I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So let me give you the specific example. Let's say we go to Sheikh Ujeri, who we both respect, and we explain this specific issue of wilayat takwiniya, and we say this person believes that this is not kufr and shirk akbar. They don't have the belief themselves, but they're just saying, it may be bid'ah or something lesser than that, but it's not kufr and shirk. Now, if he turns around, which I believe he will, but I could be wrong.
No. You don't know what the Sheikh will do.
Yeah, I believe he will. I could be wrong. I'm fine with that.
Fine.
If he turns around and says that this person who has this belief, after we have several discussions with him, and he doubles and triples down on it, and
he's not willing to have a
declares this
discussion
person
with
to
me.
be a deviant, let's say,
right?
Then, if I follow that opinion and I say, yes, I agree with the Sheikh, this person is a deviant, is there anything wrong?
Who the person who's saying the stuff like about the takwiniyah?
I mean, first of all, is there any problem with the Sheikh declaring that person a deviant? And then is there any problem with me also saying that and I'm following his opinion and I agree with him?
Yeah, no, that's just, I don't know if I.
You can do it. Why is it hypothetical?
Are we talking about the person who is saying the thing about what takwiniyah, or are we talking about the person who believes that person is not deviant? Do you see what I'm asking?
The second one.
Yeah. I don't think the Sheikh will say that. Bro. It's like this is exactly what the Madkhalis do, which is that you're doing chain tabdi'a essentially. Like at the point of this person's doing this bid'ah action. Yeah, if I make tabdi'a of this person, that's fine. Okay, the Sheikh has made tabdi'a of that person. I'm following the Sheikh. That's no problem. Now, if we say that this person A, has made tabdi'a of person B, but person C doesn't see person A as mubtada, and we make tabdi'a of that person, that's tabdi'a tasalsuli. At that point, it's the same thing as chain takfir, chain tabdi'a.
No. I think you're okay. You're misunderstanding. Okay, there's a super chat here. I'm going to read you what it says. I don't know because I've been here talking to you. I haven't been watching Daniel's stream, but this is what the person's saying.
Invite me.
It's from Electro T, so I don't know how trustworthy they are, but they say Jake DH, and it doesn't stand for a bad word. That stands for Daniel Haqiqatjou, is saying right now on his live stream that it's shirk only if the person believes of independence, like you said, istiqlal, which you were again critical of, and this is a common thing that they say, which is still shirk. If the belief of independence is accompanied with the belief of wilayat takwiniyah. So no, he is not.
Because I even spoke to Asrar Rashid some time ago, Ahi, and asked him this question.
Well, I'm saying Electro T.
Asrar Rashid told me that if someone believes that there's taswiyah, even if with istiqlal or without istiqlal, this is Asrar Rashid, bro. Like he said, that's shirk. So
here he says,
is it
so
known with
he's
certainty?
not saying
is
it's
it ma'loom min
Please
ad-din
discuss
bid-darura? I did not say it's not shirk.
Let's say Electro T is right because
I did not say it's not shirk.
Said before. This is what he said, and he's
well. In that case, we can agree to disagree with him, and that's it. I mean, you will agree.
No, but it's not just agreeing to disagree. That's my point. This is not to say that it's not shirk unless there's complete independence, right? Istiqlal. This belief is very problematic. This is not just I differ with Daniel or whatever.
So my belief is, if someone believes that anybody has the same attribute of Allah, the same level of attribute of Allah, whatever that attribute is power, knowledge, irada,
Yes.
will, any of
It's
that
kufr,
stuff
shirk.
as Allah.
Yes,
It's not,
100%.
you do not need to say, okay, well, actually, it's only if it's mustaqil, if the person is independent, in order to declare that person as having fallen essentially.
But they're always going to make some little excuse about.
See,
there's a very slight difference, but even attributing those type of qualities to a created being itself,
No, but what I'm saying is, if
doesn't have to be full equality.
Well, that's what we're talking about. Right? We're talking about.
No, but to even say that he controls the entire universe in terms of the atoms moving, this itself is enough. This is clear cut.
Yeah. If someone says that, because that way, if someone says that, that's mumtana aqlan. People have to understand that this is defunct logically. How can there be two all-powerful agents? Basically, I feel like I'm speaking to Christian. How can there be two all-powerful? No, it's what. Sorry to say,
You're speaking to William Lane Craig. Akhi, you're having a second round.
How can there be two?
It's a straw man of Brailvies. It's a straw man of Asrar Rashid. It's a straw man.
It's wrong. If someone says that there's two that are controlling the universe, well, how? I'm sorry to say, this is shirk. This is shirk, and this is mumtana aqlan.
Yes, it's 100% shirk.
So
who actually says that?
Afterwards, but the point I'm making to you is, I'm making my position very clear on that matter. It's what I believe. However, having said that, let's say Daniel still maintains the belief that it's not shirk, but it's haram, whatever he believes.
Yeah.
I say that now you have to go. Your job is to go to a scholar and to say to that mushtahid, this is what this person is saying, blah, 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 one that you trust in. And then he makes tabdi'ah of Daniel, and you say, I'm following this sort of scholar's opinion. Me personally, I would say, like I said before, there are bigger issues.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you could. I don't need to, because for me the juice is not worth the squeezes. I get nothing from that.
For me, it is. For me, it is, because what I'm
saying is that there's a protocol in place that everyone has to follow. The protocol is, we can't have students of knowledge going out there doing tabdi'ah of people. That's it. As you know, you have to go through a mushtahid. You have to go through a bona fide person. That's
for
all
Jake.
we're saying. So if you go to the, and then
Jake
that
can
whoever
just
that
declare
says that,
as he wants.
the fatwa is not mulzim. So someone says, I got the fatwa now. I got the fatwa of this person. I say, fine, that's your fatwa. I don't believe Daniel's a muqtada. I don't believe he's a kafir. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I believe.
Yeah, but the problem with your position is,
maybe in 6 months' time he'll change his opinion. You know, maybe he'll look into.
We would take it back. We would say, okay, now he's taking it back, just like I'm saying right now.
But we're not qualified to make tabdi'ah.
No problem, Akhi, no problem.
We're not qualified to make.
Yeah, but Akhi, what you're saying is, not only are you or me that we're not qualified from, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand you saying, even if a qualified sheikh came and you explained, and it doesn't have to be this issue, I'm just using very generally, you are presenting yourself as you would never actually follow the position of a sheikh who declared somebody else deviant. That's what it sounds like you're saying to me. I mean, is there any possibility?
It depends on how far they go. Let's give an example, right? So, for instance,
forget about Daniel. We're talking generally.
Yeah, so like, for
forget
example,
about Daniel. The whole stream is about me.
Start speaking about like iddat masail, like 4 or 5 different mas'alas, and they're all yeah. Like, for example, I'll mention a name, Abu Layth. Okay, no problem. Okay, someone comes out and says, but on every matter he's doing mukhalafat al-jumhur. Every single matter, he's, you know, it doesn't seem like he's got a consistent principle. He's trying to modernize the religion. I do appreciate this argument, and yes, I will take something like that seriously. My issue is, if we're talking about bab asma or sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the asma and the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we know that in the past there have been people that have done ta'wil, tafweed, they have done ta'til, they've done all the things that Ibn Taymiyyah says don't do. They've all done it, and we've given them concession. Because that's happened now, and all the Salafi scholars have given Ibn Hajar, Abu Ya'la, and Nawawi, and so on and so forth, all these people concession. Therefore, I will use the same attitude of concession with the Deobandi, with this guy, with that guy, and all that. That's it. Because since now Ibn Taymiyyah,
but this, we're getting repetitive, because you mentioned this point. I responded. I gave my reasons for why I don't think they're on equal level. I'm willing to sit down with somebody like Sheikh Hujeri to discuss this, because honestly, the reason is, to be honest, last time we focused mainly on, is this belief deviant? Is it not? We didn't go into we didn't go into the application of declaring somebody a deviant. And as you said, what is the what's the dividing line? At what point do you say, okay, like you used what's his name, Abu Layth? I agree with that. Fine, he's gone. But at what point actually is that right? That should be discussed, and I have no problem discussing that with Sheikh Ujeri or someone else.
The thing is, we have to understand that it is highly subjective. This with tabdi', it's a very difficult one to call. It's a hard one to do. And for me, look, think about it this way: I don't get any points from doing tabdi' of somebody. For me, not doing tabdi' of something,
inshallah, you'll be rewarded.
Yeah, I'll get rewarded of not doing it.
But if I don't do it, I'm a deviant.
For the individual, this is
literally the same position
in Islam. The act of them, when you do tabdi' of them, you remove their shara'i rights. So I'm saying I'm not going to put myself in a position where I need to be removing someone's shara'i rights, and then I'll see that on the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be the judge. I am not commissioned to make tabdi' of anyone. I have not the qualifications, nor the knowledge, nor the experience to make tabdi' of anybody. I know for a fact that if I stand on the Day of Judgment and say, I did not make tabdi' of Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani or Shah Wali Allah Dahlawi or this one or that one, I have yaqeen Allah will not punish me.
But we're talking about these people. What if you seek out the 5 most senior scholars that you respect in this area, and you ask them the same question, and all of them unanimously say, this person, not deviant, but fulan is a deviant, right? You wouldn't second guess and say, oh, maybe they have a point. You wouldn't be thinking like because you're making it seem like, forget about you and I, we moved by that point. Yeah. You're making it seem like you would never really even follow the qualified opinion of a sheikh making, declaring somebody a deviant. So that, to me, that's very strange.
I'll put it this way, Akhi. There are some Salafis I would consider to be a deviant before the Ash'aris. Like, let me put it this way.
Let's name one then.
For example, Abu Bakr Baghdadi. Yeah. How do you agree? I think he's more close to being a deviant than any Ash'ari I've ever met.
I don't know enough about him, to be honest.
Oh, you guys know about ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi?
Him. I thought you were mentioning, you said
would you like someone like him?
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, ISIS leader.
Muslim people. Yeah. His takfir and his whatever. You can't, the Salafis will say.
Yeah, so, but you're calling him a deviant based on what? I'm not disagreeing with you, but
I'm not agreeing with you. I said that I would be more likely to take a fatwa that says this man's a deviant, than I would to take a fatwa that says, because for me, he is fulfilling the Khariji principles that the Prophet ﷺ spoke about in a clearer way and in a way that the scholars of the past didn't make concessions than some of the Ash'ari. So there are some people that consider themselves to be Salafi that we have to appreciate. Just because you say that you're a Salafi, you're not safe sec. You have people like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. You have people of all these the ISIS figureheads. You have all these people that are killing all these people. I consider them to be, if anything, I'll make tabdi' of them. If anything, someone come and say that.
I don't have any problem with that, of course.
But even then, I'll have hadar, by the way. I'll say maybe he's not mubtada, maybe he's just a fasiq. Sorry to say, I'll probably make tafsiq of the man. He's killing the people. He's shedding their blood. He's taking their women as slaves.
So we agree. But you're even coming up with that even without really taking it from a qualified sheikh. You're saying this on your own too.
No, many sheikhs have said this.
Many have said this. Of course they have. Yeah.
What I'm saying is, at this point, I haven't even made tabdi'.
Oh, this guy's a clown.
But what I'm saying is,
you haven't. But I'm not asking you to declare somebody a deviant. That's not what I'm asking you to do. I'm just trying to see, is it possible? And now you're giving an example where it would be possible, even if you're not saying it. That's what I'm pointing. That's what I'm trying to get.
It's just more likely. It's more likely. There's a scale of likelihoods. But for me, like, I wouldn't. Because the thing is, with the case of Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, bro, with that case, I would say there's more probably a pressing need, like, to make tabdi' of tafsiq of him or something, because he's killing the people, and we don't want our youth to go and join him or etc. etc. So that's an example. But what I'm trying to say is, in general, the juice is not worth the squeeze for me, and it doesn't accomplish much in terms of the Muslim Ummah. Like, the question is, what benefit does it have? That's the real question. If making tabdi' of an individual, a da'iyah or a sheikh, what real
I'll tell you what it does.
No.
It just as I would do to warn against people, to warn them to say that this person should not be followed. They're dangerous. They're misleading people. You should not be listening to this. I'm sorry to say, this old man, quote unquote, Sheikh Saleh. You know, nobody should be taking from them. Nobody should be listening to them.
You can do all of that. You can do all of that without making tabdi'ah.
But what's the difference?
The difference is you're not taking. You're now not doing the amal of the mujtahid. That you're not taking upon yourself to
explain the
ijtihad,
difference
and
10
therefore
times.
you're saved of the responsibility of it.
No, I'm saying even if you took it from somebody else, if you took it from a scholar,
sure.
Right? Even if you took it from a scholar.
So then you would have to mention the name of the Idun Naqal. Say, I'm following this scholar and whatever. I don't expect you guys to. If it's a case is more vague, depends on what the case is like. Look, here's the thing. I noticed with the whole Salafi movement in the current time, Akhi, and I think realize this more and more. When I was in it myself and I was part of it, the whole thing about tabdi'ah, Akhi, you must understand, because you know when we said, okay, where's the threshold of where someone actually leaves Ahl Sunnah Jama'ah? Let me tell you a secret that I discovered after many, many years, bro. There is no book of usul that tells you exactly what threshold it is. And some Salafis, Akhi, they put principles and conditions which other Salafis don't put. The best example of that are the Madkhalists. Akhi, they went as far as to say, if you don't follow Sheikh Rabi'a ibn Hadi al-Madkhali, if you don't follow this guy, and you don't follow the ones who he praised, then you are a mubtada'. Can you imagine? There's no dalil from the Quran. There's no dalil from the Sunnah. There's no dalil from Ijma'. There's no dalil from Qiyas. There's no dalil from Shara' man qablana. There's no dalil from Maslaha Mursala. There's no dalil from Istihsan. There's no dalil from Istishab. There's no dalil from any of the masadir of a tashri' that this can be the case, but they went that far. Why? Because they exploited the fact that they can do that because there is no book of this is the threshold that has been reached. This person is now mubtada', and they put their own principle. That's actually a bid'ah. What they've done. What they've done is actually bid'ah. They put their own principles in place, and then they now it's a sliding scale. And you'll find that it's not just madkhalis; it's ma shabahum, whoever is most similar to them. So you got madkhalis that say, okay, we stop.
Yeah, but do you even believe? Do you believe? Let me ask you this: do you believe that their sheikh actually agrees with what they're doing?
Yes, I do believe that.
You do believe that?
Of course, because we have good evidence that their sheikh believes that. Bro, he endorses Abu Khadija and he endorses Bilal Davis and stuff. So he's given them a proper tazkiyah, like, do you know what I mean? He knows exactly. People have complained to him what's going on, and he's recently. I don't know.
I honestly think that there's sometimes some misrepresentation there.
What do you think of the madkhalis? Would you refute that?
No, what I'm saying is, let's take S-Pubs. Why should I be confident that they're faithfully representing the sheikh? I don't know. How would I know that? I don't have that knowledge.
The sheikh has made proper tazkiyah, like,
they have tazkiyah,
and this is something I confirm
do you know
myself,
what that means, Jake?
Of someone like Abu Khadija.
Okay, well, I would have to look at all these things, so I'm not going to speak without that information. I don't know that.
Okay, but so at what point do we say that tabdi'ah shouldn't be done? You got Rabi'a ibn Hadi al-Madkhali. Then you've got, for example, Ali Halabi. You've got another person who used to be his friend, and he used to make tabdi'at and stuff like that.
I understand all this. What I'm saying here is so much simpler than that, right? I'm trying to get to a point if it's even possible to declare somebody a deviant. I think that you said, yes, there are, maybe you would be very, very slow to do it, which is obvious. That's what you're saying. But it is in the realm of possibility that you would do it. But it would be it would have to be something very clear and serious to you. And
for me, like I say, it's not beneficial to the community, the Muslim community. This stuff, I don't think tabdi'ah necessarily with people that believe in Quran, that believe in the Sunnah. Yes, they may have ta'wil, or what do you call it? Asma' al sifat.
Okay, but we went over this, but let me ask you this. Do you think it's important to say, forget about whether or not the person is a deviant, do you think it's important to declare certain beliefs to be deviant? Do you think that's important?
It depends on what belief and to whom. So, for example, Ibn Taymiyyah was asked this very question, and he answered Majmu' Fatawa, and actually Sheikh Ajari is the one who told me this, and he repeats this quite often actually in his durus. He says that Ibn Taymiyyah said, I only go into detail about Aqidah matters because you guys ask me to. I would never mention this to the lay public.
I agree with that. But
Oh,
we
he
talked about
agrees.
it- But we talked about this last time with Sheikh Ujeri. The problem now
He
is
agrees with that.
with the advent of the internet and everybody is speaking about these things online, and he even admitted it himself that his durus are online, where he is going into these issues, where he is declaring certain beliefs of the mutakallimin to be deviant.
He's not
or
going
even maybe
online
kufr.
and making
So
a civil
he's
war.
doing that himself.
He's not involved
right?
in Aqidah wars.
And so it's not an all or nothing, as if we can never speak about these things. Obviously, he accepts this,
No,
right?
I get it, but here's the thing, because like we all went through journey with this whole like opinion, then changing opinions, and every single like almost every day now has gone through a journey. And my issue is that when we, and I'm not absolving myself from this, go through this journey in public in real time for everyone to see. Yani, we may change our opinions on key matters like al-istighatha, or we may change our opinion on asma' wa sifat, and then we have like Yasir Qadi, for example. And then, but the thing is, it's vehemency on both sides. So like when he was on this side, he was very harsh against the people on that side. Now he's on this side, he's very harsh against people on that side. You'd think that he would actually have more empathy because he was part of that camp in the first place. But no, he literally goes from one to the other, and he expects everyone to follow. But do you know what I'm trying to say? We all go through something like this, bro. And what I'm trying to say is that it's not fair on the lay. That's what I think. It's not fair on the lay people, because
but the lay people, for the most part, Akhi, I could tell you this from my experience. If I make a video on something that is related to Aqidah and talking about detailed matters, I don't get that many views. People don't watch. The people who are
Your
watching,
most popular
the small number
videos
of
are
people
on
who
me,
watching,
on my
are,
Aqidah.
you know,
Those are your
students of
most
knowledge
popular
or people
videos.
who are very interested in these things. They don't get those kind of views, and you're not going to get a lot of following from that. And that's what I mentioned to Sheikh Ujeri, and he agreed with that. He said, if you
Your
make a
most
video
popular views
that's related to
are
Aqidah
on
and you
me.
speak about what you believe are deviant beliefs of the mutakallimin, and it gets like 3,000 views, and obviously you cannot be 100% sure that not a single person watched it and maybe got a shubha, but you can't do that with anything. You have to weigh the harms and the benefits, right? So he agreed that there's no issue with that.
I'm going to have to leave in a couple of minutes, but before I do, I want to ask a couple questions, because here's the thing. The way I see you, Akhi, I actually see you, and I'm not trying to throw dust in your face. I'm only doing this because we're trying to get to the maslahah of the issue, the nub of the issue, which is this, is that, Akhi, like Daniel Haqiqatjou and yourself, I consider you guys just like the whole team does. You know, the whole team, all of the people, the du'at, they know that, okay, these guys are world-class debaters, man. These guys are the top of their... I'm going to put this in a very crude manner, but I'm going to have to. If a lot of the ulama of the Muslim world, if they knew what you are capable of in terms of comparative religion, the philosophy of religion, the logical problem of the Trinity, some of these issues, if they actually knew what you had on these issues, I can guarantee you'd find scholars wanting to learn from you these issues. You see the point? You and Daniel Kadhalik, because you're presenting cutting-edge, world-class knowledge on these topics. So the way I see it is that you guys are, let's say, put it in the sports example, world-class boxers, or world-class grapplers or something. World-class boxers, you're Floyd Mayweather. But then you're going into a wrestling match, because the truth is, if Floyd Mayweather decided that he was going to do Olympic wrestling, it would be the biggest waste of talent in the world. That's the fact. You guys are the Floyd Mayweathers of the Dawah. You do phenomenal work, Akhi. But the truth is, you're getting into a space where if you want to see something about istighatha, I've mentioned this to Daniel, I mentioned it to you again, bro. You're not going to get better than the debate between Asrar Rashid and Abdurrahman Hassan. Akhi, Abdurrahman Hassan.
I disagree with that, Akhi. I think it was a terrible debate, to be honest.
Wow.
Fair enough. But nevertheless, in terms of the content, in terms of the ilmi content that they've tried,
I didn't think it was good, man, from either side, to be honest. I'm not trying to be a hater.
You can
but
do better.
I thought they spent a lot of time on not really getting to the crux of the matter. I think Asrar Rashid,
Jake is too afraid to debate on this topic,
to really present evidence, and Abdurrahman Hassan kept asking for it. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into that.
But okay, put that to the side. Objectively speaking, sorry to say, let me put it this way, and forgive me for the crudeness. If you and Daniel done a debate of istighatha, versus if
I wouldn't do. I mean,
no, but let's just for the sake of argument, because I heard that you guys want to debate or something.
No, he challenged me to a debate on istighatha.
Yeah, sure. But let's just say
he ran away.
If you and Daniel, I'm telling you, the equivalent of you and Daniel doing a debate on an issue of Islamic studies, which requires knowledge of the Quran, knowledge of the Arabic language, knowledge of the Hadith, knowledge of the fiqh, knowledge of the usul fiqh, knowledge of all of that stuff, is the equivalent of Floyd Mayweather going into the thing with Jordan Burroughs or Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's doing wrestling now. He's completely he's done something that's not his field. Do you know what I'm trying to say? You guys are the Floyd Mayweathers, and you guys are the Bernard Hopkins, and you guys are. But stick to this because you guys are phenomenal at this. If you go into that area, actually, there's no way you and Daniel can provide to the public the regurgitation of ayat, the regurgitation of hadith, the knowledge of the Arabic language that these guys did. Now, you could say from a debate perspective, you guys, of course, you're much better at debating than both of them. By far, like, they're not debaters in that sense. Asrar Rashid got into it just recently. So
yeah, I'm not, for example, I would openly say, I'm not going to say I'm more knowledgeable than Abdurrahman Hassan. I wouldn't say that. So I agree with that aspect. I'm just critical of the debating part.
Yeah, well, Asrar Rashid as well, to be fair, like in terms of Islamic studies. In terms of Islamic
studies, he can have more knowledge in certain areas, but it's it's leading him down the wrong path. So I don't care what he claims to studied. He's promoting clear-cut kufr and shirk. I'm sorry to say. So
you can't believe that, but what I'm saying is that they both.
And by the way, hold on. Let me say something to Asrar Rashid. You used to have my number before. We spoke on the phone, right? I even sent him one of my articles. He said he was going to read it and come back to me and speak to me again, and it never happened. So, Asrar, you can contact me anytime. You know many people with my number. We can speak again. I don't know. Maybe my article was so hard on him that he didn't know how to respond to it, but he never called me back. So there you go.
No, Asrar Rashid should debate.
We don't want to see that fight. We don't want to see you guys talk about istighatha because we don't think that you guys will be the best people to talk about it. You get what I'm trying to say?
I don't care. I'm not I didn't ask for the debate. Daniel asked me to debate.
Yeah, I'm saying it to both. I'm saying it. You
didn't
and
ask
Daniel
for the debate. You're making
all
these videos about the topic.
Delicate Islamic.
I disagree with that, Akhi. I disagree with that. I think that Daniel maybe. Well, Daniel, I don't even think he wants to be honest. I don't think he wants to have anything to do with it.
Yes, I'll debate you right now.
I do. I think it's important to warn about these issues. Even if I'm not the top person in the world to debate.
I challenge you to debate so many times.
I wish, let me be very honest with you. I wish that there were people who were much more knowledgeable than me, which there are many, who would actually speak about.
You should make sure you say.
I mean, I have no problem admitting that. If you notice, I try to speak about the topics that I know, right? Now, what I'm telling you is there are many people way more knowledgeable than me that have the same views as I do in this area that can do much better job presenting it. But here's the harsh truth. They're not doing it. They are not doing it. That's the damn problem.
Maybe they're not doing it now because there's like Palestine genocide and all this stuff.
No, even before that, Akhi, they're not doing it. It's very good.
Actually, this whole thing of istighatha was massive here in the UK, bro, man. There were people.
But I'm not only talking about istighatha. Let me tell you. Let me give you an example.
Yeah,
I can name people. I don't want to name. Okay, let me say this. Sheikh al-Ujaidi, he himself and the people that he is close with in the Arabic speaking world.
Yeah.
My opinion is when it comes to aqidah and these discussions and going into these aqli matters and so on and so forth, I believe they're the top guys. Now you tell me, is there a single person in English that has the same views that they do and is at their level expressing those type of things in English? It doesn't exist. It's not even close. It's comparing me to these guys, which I'm nothing. So who else is trying to transport what they're doing in Arabic into English? There's nobody doing it, Akhi.
Might as well just
Why does that need to happen? Why?
No, well, that's
we watch bloody movies.
See?
Squid Games are made. What do they call it? Squid Games is Korean, and they put subtitles. Everyone's watching Squid Games.
Yeah, but Akhi, you're trying to say that there's no benefit. There's no benefit to transport what they're saying and have somebody who's actually qualified to be able to speak about that in English. Why not?
I'll go back to my analogy. You guys,
forget about me. I'm saying somebody else, but nobody's doing it. Who's doing it?
well, I mean, the last time it was really done was Rashid and Abdurrahman Hassan. But then
And
the thing is,
let's be honest. You think I'm not, no disrespect. I have a lot of respect to Abdurrahman Hassan. In my opinion, he's nowhere near the level of these people that you and I are thinking of and that we're talking about. He's nowhere near that level.
yeah, of course,
I'm
yeah.
sorry to say.
What
Where
in
are
terms
you?
of
What's your level?
Haqiqatjou and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Nowhere near that level.
So
So
he'll tell you that himself. He'll tell you that himself. I remember speaking to him one time, and I was saying I was in contact with Sheikh Al-Jayri or Meher Amir and these guys, and he said that if you're in contact with them, you don't need me to be contacted at all. So he's humble like that. You understand? But I'm trying to say that.
I know I'm not saying that.
I'm only saying, look, put it this way, Akhi. Someone like Abdurrahman Hassan is a good example because he's a young man who lives. He kind of was born and raised in the UK, yeah.
Yeah.
And he was born and raised in the UK. But he spent, I can tell you this for, I know this guy. He probably spent 5, 6, 7, 8 hours a day memorizing the Quran, writing the Mutun, doing that. I guarantee you his kids would put us all to shame. That's what I'll put. His son. His son, he's memorized bloody. I saw a video of him doing Shatabiya. That's what
I don't have any problem with this. I'm telling you.
I went Shatabiya is when you do the 10 qira'ahs, Abdurrahman Hassan's son, his son was doing Shatabiya. I went to my son. I said, "Well, you don't even bloody know this yet."
So where's your reconciliation with Hassan?
No, I'm just saying.
Where's your reconciliation with him?
I'm always open. I'm good with him. I'm good with Dalman. I speak to all of these brothers in private.
Okay.
Yeah, I speak to them. They're nice guys. They always got each other's
Another
backs,
checkmate.
even though in public we can't speak. But what I mean is that
I would agree with you. I would say right now, probably in English, in the realm that I'm looking for people to discuss and talk about these issues, I would say he's probably the top guy right now in English. I would agree with that.
I'm just giving him as an example because this is what if you guys really want to give the community a service on that, you guys want to give a fight and do a debate on istighatha and this kind of.
I don't want to do a debate. He wants to do it.
Him, but whoever, I'm directing it to whoever you want. I need to see a level close to this. If I don't want to see the fight. It's like seeing an amateur fight. I don't want to see it. It's like my fight, MMA fight. No one wants to see that. You know what I'm trying to say? The main event of the evening, is I want 2 top tier. Guys, you guys are top tier in this field. I don't know what on earth has gotten into both of you. You're so good at this thing. The whole world has to tip their hat and say, "Look, Daniel Haqiqatjou and Jake, the metaphysician." Everybody has to say this. Number one, you can be the best in the world, bro. You can be the best in the world, or you can be one of the lowest. You can be a journeyman. You can go from being Floyd Mayweather.
That's fine. I don't care. I think
Floyd Mayweather got into the mats with Jordan Burroughs. Floyd Mayweather would be thrown away. He'd be humiliated. No one would know anything about him. You're Floyd Mayweather. I'm your manager now. I am. What's that guy called? The manager. Paul Heyman. No, not Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman. What's his name? Don King. I'm Don King. I'm telling you, don't go near wrestling, bro. You are a boxer. You are a fantastic. You are the best. I'm so impressed. Ask any of my friends. I always say, bro, metaphysician. This guy, mashallah. I'm pretty sure that if Daniel Haqiqatjou, and I know that if Jake Metaphysician, if they done an IQ test, and I say this openly, they would smoke everyone at the dawah.
No,
that's what let me just tell you. This is my belief. If all the guys had to do an IQ test right now, yeah, and Jake Brancatella was there, and then Haqiqatjou was there, I think Yasser Qadi would do very well actually as well. To be fair to him, I think he would. If this one, that one, in terms of using your intelligence and your aql and making arguments, bro, coherence, I'm impressed. You're Floyd, bro. Why would you go into this? Don't go into this. I'm saying, this is, and all the people are confused. All the people are just like, they want to see it. They want to see the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys. They want to see them come back. They want to see D-Generation X. They want to see the Rock and Sock Connection. They want to see the PBD, bro. 1 million views or more than 1 million views. People, tell us about it is right there. We are watching it. It's like a bloody FIFA match, Like, when he was there, can you confirm? Can you confirm about you? We were watching it. We were watching it like a soccer match. Yes. And when Daniel Haqiqatjou made a point, we were like, yeah, you see that guy making this and that. And then when Jake, oh yes, Jake, yes, we were cheering for you. No one's gonna be cheering for the istighatha thing, bro. No one's gonna.
I think that's the problem.
Stop. We need to stop. We need the Jake and Daniel connection, bro. We need.
I think that's the problem. They don't have to cheer me on. I don't care about that. But the problem is nobody wants to talk about these aqidah matters. Nobody wants to talk about it.
Except you.
Even the qualified people.
Bro, you're very good at kalam. You're very good at aqidah, but the aqidah that we want you to talk about, the aqidah of the Christians.
I don't know about that.
I don't know what we talk about.
But it's not either or. You can do both.
Stay in your lane, bro.
I know, but I'm just saying, this, just leave it. Abdurrahman Hassan will deal with it. This other guy you can train Abdurrahman Hassan. How about that? You train consider it more of an MMA match. Yeah, you say, listen, Abdurrahman Hassan or Abu Taymiyyah, one of those guys. You guys are so knowledgeable in Islam. I am so knowledgeable in these areas of critical thinking. Let's come together. We have the same manhaj. Let's come together. Let me teach you this. If he knows, yani, okay, this is a good move for him, he'll say, oh, fine, no problem. Akhi, he spends 6 months with you. Abdurrahman Hassan goes back to Istighatha debate number 2, but round 2 with Asrar Rashid.
I think you would
watch that one, bro.
I think you would do much better this time.
Brancatella, just like he trained Mohammed Hijab for William Craig. He's training Abdurrahman Hassan to go against round 2 of Asrar Rashid. Okay, I'll be watching it myself. I'll be sitting here. Let's see who's going to make the better point. Let's see who's going to see Abdurrahman. That's what we want to see. Okay, so
yes, but we're not getting that now. Actually, that's the point. We're not seeing that. That's the problem. And me, even if I think I have enough knowledge to make certain statements about these issues to educate people. I don't need to be all-knowing and have as much knowledge as other
by
people.
calling me
I can
a
say as long as whatever I'm saying,
go to hell.
I believe is correct. No problem. What's the issue?
You can say all that, but I'm just saying that your greatest benefit to the ummah, where you're going to get the greatest rewards from Allah. Think about the following: what is the action that you can take, you as Jake Brancatella? Let's think about it. That will mean that you get the greatest reward from Allah. That ينقطع عمل ابن آدم إلا من ثلاث. That all of the Adam's son of Adam's deeds are ceased except for 3 things. عمل صالح ولد صالح يدعو له وصدقة جارية وعلم نافع ينتفع به.
Yeah,
son or a child that makes dua for them.
Yeah, beneficial
knowledge or sadaqah jariyah.
Yeah,
the beneficial knowledge is that 100 years from today, people can be actually referring to Mr. Brancatella, to Mr. Haqiqatjou, will be in the realm of comparative religion, of ideology, of philosophy of religion.
That's what you think, Aki. Give me 10 years and you're going to see something else. Watch.
Okay, that's fine. I'll give you 10 years, but for now...
No.
For now, Aki,
10 years,
do that
10 years, inshallah. I will be doing those type of things.
I'm going to go and fight Jordan Burroughs, but right now, we want you
Can't
to
do them now,
we want you to continue being the world champion.
Can't do it now.
I am, but I can, just like, remember Hijab in your interview with Daniel, right?
Yeah.
He said, oh,
again,
what
Daniel,
do you consider yourself? And you're like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. You are the guy who's juggling so many things. I mean, how can you tell me to not juggle more than one thing?
No, but the thing is, I'm doing it for myself.
Come on, bro. You got the Azhar hat.
When I'm fighting in the cage, I'm not doing that.
MMA match. You're doing this. You're doing that. I mean, nobody even, at this point, nobody even knows who you are because you got the name Sabor there. People see you doing so many different things. They actually think you're probably Sabor Ahmed on the stream right now. Honestly, we just love you here, bro, man. I get it. We want everybody to get along. That's just fine.
We're great fans of Jake Brancatella. We
nobody should be a fan of me.
They get the popcorn, get the drinks. Let's watch the classic Jake Brancatella versus James White on the logical problem of the Trinity. Let's watch that.
He's already done, man. He's Texas barbecue, that guy.
He didn't even know what was going on, Akhi. It was like, when you're watching Miguel Cotto versus Floyd Mayweather in the second, third round. Oh, and the guy's down. Or Ricky Hatton versus Floyd Mayweather. And boom, check left hook. The guy's down, is on the floor. I was shocked. I was amazed. It was such a masterclass. It was a masterpiece of performance. It was one of the best performances in the world I've ever seen, actually. Come on, now Floyd has decided to go into freestyle wrestling or badminton or tennis, ping pong. What are you doing, Floyd? Everyone's going to say to him, your fans. We want you to do ping pong for 10 years and come back, and we just want you to do this. We want Daniel and Jake to put their powers together on the things that they're the world-class guys. They're the best in the world. Everyone must tip the hat. If I'm not going to mention any names because it's going to go viral if I say, if Alim comes and says, I want to learn comparative religion. I want to learn this. I want to learn about.
I'll mention a name since we mentioned him before. Mr. Asrar Rashid. This is another thing. Remember after your debate with Jay Dyer? Let me tell you something. This guy had a debate with us with Jay Dyer. I don't think it went too well for him. I did a debate review on it, explaining what he should be saying. He emailed me afterwards and asked me basically if I
don't mention what you said on the email, because
no. This is what he mentioned. There's no problem because this guy has never even come back. Okay. I mean, what's going on here with him?
I know,
Except he'll debate you, bro. Asrar Rashid will debate you. Go ahead. Why are you talking so much smack?
PBD.
I don't care, man.
Sorry, brother. You the devil. Someone's tricked you. I'm telling you, you were on the show.
I don't think so, Aki. I don't think the devil tricked me or anything.
You were on the show. You were on the show, Aki.
Let me tell you something.
The same guy that just bloody spoke to Donald Trump.
I don't care. I don't care about this, Aki. I don't care at all about this.
And you performed so well.
Listen, I'm here in Canada. I mentioned to you before I went live. I'm here in the hotel room in Canada in the middle of a snowstorm. I'm trying to give dawah, speaking at these different events all over. You know what bothers me the most? Listen to this. What bothers me the most is when somebody comes up to me and says, "Oh, Jake, I know you from PBD." That actually disappoints me. I don't give a damn about PBD. I don't give a damn about PBD. I don't care about it whatsoever. If somebody actually comes to me and said, "Oh, Jake, I benefited from this video where you explaining this about Christianity or Aqidah or something else," that makes me happy. I don't care about PBD and these people.
Of yours, Daniel Haqiqatjou.
If somebody said they saw me in a video refuting Daniel Haqiqatjou and explaining the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah instead of PBD, I would
You're crazy.
I would be happier than a pig in mud.
What's going on?
Happier than a pig in mud.
Yes.
Interesting.
No way, man.
Of course.
Crazy. Insane.
Bro, man. No,
SubhanAllah. Look at the mindset.
Actually, let me ask you
It's
a
like
question.
sick.
What's more important? Someone
This is
coming
really
into
sick.
Islam or someone becoming Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Simple question.
Okay, good. This is a good question. Me, if you watch my videos, which you don't watch enough, maybe you should watch
No, I
more.
watched them.
But listen, I have always said my dawah primarily is to the Muslims. It's always to the Muslims. And then icing on the cake is if a kafir watches my video, they become interested in Islam and they want to take shahada. Alhamdulillah. But I want to keep the Muslims Muslim, and I want to try to save them from having to even spend any time in the hellfire.
Let's say, for example, Akhi, because I know you mentioned about PBD. Let's say there's a Muslim guy who was on the edge, yeah, and he watched your thing on PBD, and he said, "You know what? Wow. The way he took out these two Islamophobes, the way he dealt with them. I am Muslim. I'm gonna pray for him." Okay, Akhi. So I'm saying that this. Is there more or less likelihood that you will keep people as Muslim if you pursue this path than if you pursue the path that you're currently pursuing?
It's not an either or, just like you claim it to be MMA fighter and also academic and these things. Why are you trying to sell me short? On the one hand, you're praising me, but then you're saying, "Jake, you can only shoot the 3-pointer, but you can't dunk." No, I'm going to come through and I'm going to dunk on fools. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do both.
The issue is if you appear to be this sectarian where you do this kind of things, Akhi, you will lose. There is a zero sum here. Do you know a Jama'a Ulama al-Tarjih, which is that essentially that doing things together is better than choosing one over the other. That's only if there's no zero sum. There's not an opportunity cost, as they say in economics. But in this case, I'm saying there's an opportunity cost. That's why you have to worry, because I'm saying, like, for example, having you, let's say you're Messi, you and Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. We have the two great ones. I don't know, you don't watch football, but everyone knows this example, yeah? Now, the manager decides what's going to happen is we're going to put Lionel Messi in goal. He's going to be a goalkeeper. Okay, that's it.
I'm not saying to put him in goalkeeper. That's not what I'm saying. That's not the analogy. The analogy is, whatever I speak about, do I know enough to convey that? Even like the Prophet ﷺ said, even if it's a single ayah. If I can convey it, no problem. I don't have to be Abdurrahman Hassan or Sheikh Ojedi or blah, blah, blah. I don't have to be these people. I can be Jake. I'm different. And as long as I convey something small.
See what happens, Akhi. Try the cards. Do trial and error. Do your thing. I love you for the sake of Allah. Akhi. I'll read, and everybody wants to see. Would you agree? Do you agree with this, brother? Yeah, everyone wants to see you and Daniel get back together and say, you know what, differences aside.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Let's give the final summary. How do we do that? We do that by Daniel.
Invite me on.
Spreading these kufri or deviant beliefs and admitting, if he comes out and admits, no, it's not about istiqlal. Yes, Jake, we agree with both, not only brother Jake, we agree with Mohammed Hijab that this nonsense is kufr and shirk. And
notwithstanding, would you accept a ceasefire agreement?
No, listen, this is what I would accept. Yes. I would accept this. If he does that, everything else I will erase, right? I don't care about anything.
What a liar.
If he comes out and we have
I've already clarified.
But here's my question to you.
All these issues
I've clarified. Do you have a problem
clarified.
with me? Forget about me attacking him. Do you have a problem with me if he actually does have those beliefs and I choose not to associate with him because of that? Is that a problem?
That's the personal choice.
Yeah, so that's what it is.
He's attacking me. It's not just non-association.
And then that's what I'm saying.
There,
right now,
thank
we have
you.
Two star
Thank
players
you.
that are attacking each other. We want those two star players to, if not attack each other, at least now don't be it.
Okay, so that's it. If Daniel right now doesn't mention me, stops talking about these issues, then I would stop talking about it.
What?
He's not gonna do it.
So you're saying that if he doesn't mention
I wasn't talking to you at all. And you made 10 videos about
which
me.
We already talked about before, but he wants to go on, and I'm going to respond. And even if he doesn't mention me by name,
I have to respond to your lies.
For example, if he shared that clip and said,
your slander of me.
Shirk, of course I'm going to say
I think that's fair. I'm going to speak to Daniel. I'm going to say to him, listen, Daniel, he's at least agreed that if you don't mention him, he won't mention you.
No.
And that's fair enough. You've said it. And so if you withhold your side of the ceasefire agreement, so I'm like Qatar right now.
No problem.
No, I'm sorry to say. Then you have to hold the side of the ceasefire agreement.
No problem. Meshi mushkil. No
yes.
problem.
All the videos are still there. All of his slander is still there.
Inshallah.
Anyone mess around with Jake I was going to say Dan Brancatella. We'll put them together.
It's actually funny because my brother's name is Daniel. One of my brothers. So there was the Daniel Brancatella.
Now he's become your brother, Akhi. Now he's become your brother.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it is what it is. But anyway, I want to just leave with this last question for clarity's sake, because I want people to be clear what your position is. We discussed earlier about this Sheikh Dedo thing and what Daniel believes, that these differences are just, he keeps saying they're just very minor, they're just secondary issue, and there's no major difference and all of this kind of stuff, that the Mutakalimin don't have any deviant beliefs. Is this your position? Because he's ascribing this to you, saying that you agree with that.
I say, like, the abstract notion is different from the practical notion.
Yeah, exactly. Just stick with the abstract, the belief itself.
So for me to be faithful to the Hanbali school in terms of these issues, then obviously Imam Ahmad himself, there's no question, he had a very staunch view on the Kalam of Allah, like as harf and sawt and stuff, and I do too. I believe it's in harf and sawt. I believe that the Kalam of Allah is harf and sawt. I believe it's sifat, etc., etc. And I don't believe that it's one of those ijtihadi masail and stuff like that. And so you could say it's makhluq, you could say it's this, you could say it's. I don't think that there is definitely had. Because if there wasn't a had, then you can become a philosoph, then you become what do you call it, philosopher, or you can say there's nephew of sifat, there's no sifat, Allah doesn't have any. So I don't believe in that. There is a had of acceptable interpretation, but in terms of me going to an Ash'ari and saying that you have left this fold of
that's another thing.
I'll be honest. I found so much pleasant treatment from the brothers in the deal.
But he said
I
that.
saw pleasant
He
treatment
said
from
Diddu
those
was
guys.
a deviant.
These are my brothers. These are my people.
Jake said that Sheikh Diddu is a deviant.
Part of the ummah. It's as simple as that, really.
So you don't want to kill the Deobandi scholars. You don't want to kill the Deobandi scholars.
You're calling them all deviants.
They're so pleasant. They're so good. They're so hospitable. I'm so sorry. My interaction with them when I went to South Africa, when I here in the UK, when I go to the US, it's so respectful compared to a lot of the brothers, the hardline Salafi brothers, Akhi. And so, yani, I'm sorry to say, we're gonna have to learn adab. A lot of us, you know what I mean, the way we behave with each other, and tabdiya and this and that, and mightier than thou, and we are the same sect. Akhi. It's disgusting. Trust me, Akhi, you will find when you engage more with the hardline Salafis, you'll find yourself always on your toes. You're gonna find yourself always at the threat of like someone's always pointing a gun of tabdiya on you. So okay, just what did you say? So what's your position again? Why did you sit with this guy? Oh, what was that again? Say again. Oh, sorry, who you sitting with? You think you sit with that? We'll shoot you. Who are you to shoot me? And who are you to this and that? And who are you? I'll slap you. I'll slap you. Don't ever speak like this as if you're the one who's has the gun and everybody has to. No, allow it, man. These guys will lie there. They're trying to bully us.
Just give me the gun. That's all we need. Only just me. That's it.
That's what I'm trying to say. The bullying tactic. Enough is enough. We've had enough of the bullying. So what I'm trying to say is that
I'm not trying to bully people. What I'm trying to do is
not you.
He's calling them
I
deviant.
just prefer
you haven't
to
seen it, bro. This, wallahi, in the UK, when you go to, because you're in Morocco right now. I know there are some madkhalis.
Well, I'm in Canada right now, but I live in Morocco.
Yeah. So Morocco, like, you know what I'm trying to say, there are some madkhalis there, but obviously the population is not madkhali. Madkhalis and these Halabis and these hardliners, they represent 0.5% of the population, but they're just loud online. They're not 99.5% of the Muslim Ummah have nothing to do with these hardliners. They think that they're too much. They're disgusting. They just want to make everything bid'ah. They want to make everything either kufr or bid'ah. You're always walking around with eggshells. It's too much. We can't live like that. That's not going to help my son.
But see, the problem with the term medkhali is that Daniel has weaponized that term and used it so broadly that everybody's a medkhali now. Jake is a medkhali. This person's a medkhali. This person. I mean, what does it even mean?
Why can't you criticize Hindu temples in UAE?
I know one thing about Daniel Haqiqatjou, of many things. He's a man of his word. When he puts this man, and I shook his hand when he was here in the UK, bro, I felt the presence of a real man. And I know that a man that shakes my hand like that and the way he is, when he puts his word on something like a ceasefire agreement, and the whole people are watching, now thousands of people are watching live, and he's hearing what I'm saying right now, he's gonna say, okay, he's dropped his sword. I'm gonna drop my. I know
he hasn't,
because I will drop my sword, and he's not gonna go mukhalafa or go against that, and then that will be at least ceasefire agreement, and then we can hope and we can dua. Maybe one day you come together, PBD number 2, or one of those situations, akhi, and it'll blow up. Everyone, I think some people will cry. I think I'm getting the goosebumps thinking about it, akhi. Oh my god, and the reunion. Oh my god, it's like, you know, when you see the Triple H and the Shawn Michaels again, and then that's the dream everyone wants.
Yeah, well, we can dream for that. I hope that I mean, no, seriously. I mean, I would love to reconcile with Daniel or anyone, but my position is,
but you can't talk to them.
Us coming together on the haqq, on the truth. I'm not going to say, oh, Daniel believes that all of these positions are not kufr and shirk, and they very clearly are. And yet I'm going to go on PBD with him, or I'm going to take him out to the wherever. No, I'm not going to do it. You know? So I would accept a ceasefire because I've already said everything I really need to say about him. I don't really need to say anything else.
Well, let's start with that. Okay, I'm pretty sure Daniel's going to agree to the ceasefire, and then from that we can just hope and Allah.
Yeah, I'll make dua for him to stop. You know, with these
delete
things
your
that
videos.
he's saying, and
delete the videos.
Hopefully he changes his beliefs and comes to the true position of Ahl Sunnah, and that's it.
Delete your
I'm
videos.
Sure he's going to come to the true position of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah.
I hope so.
Because obviously right now it's deep.
I hope he stops.
I'm joking. The man is
he's taking the position. Look, he's literally copying and pasting from Yasser Qadi right now. It's not a good look. I mean, his position on istighatha is the same as Yasser Qadi.
No, it's not.
Yeah, and Even Adnan Rashid.
He's just
Recently,
lying.
he and if you speak to Musa, you know. He tried to include him on this. He sees that we're an event together. He's trying to cause fitna, right? And he's saying, oh, Adnan
irony.
Rashid agrees with me about these topics. And Musa replied and said, no, he doesn't, bro. He doesn't agree with you. And then since you've
What issues?
awakened the beast of Adnan Rashid, I mean,
What
who would want to
issues?
do this?
I don't
He
know.
is known for his staunch position
lie.
against
Adnan Rashid, you have no idea. This man, wallah, this Adnan Rashid, bro, he's a physical specimen. Akhi. He doesn't mind me saying this, but I'll say it. Yeah. There was a guy who tried to assault Adnan Rashid in the street.
Yeah.
Adnan Rashid knocked him out. And, I don't want the police to get involved in the thing.
Yeah.
And he gave him one bang. The guy got dropped on the floor. Adnan Rashid is a real man, bro. So I say, Adnan Rashid, I think probably doesn't want to see you guys. Ask him. He's going to say the same thing. He doesn't want to see you guys fight. Just not good.
No
No one does. Trust me, Akhi. So that's what I'm pretty sure Adnan Rashid.
No. Adnan Rashid doesn't want it all, but he's been responding indirectly because he's been saying, this is what I believe about the Shia. I believe istighatha is kufr akbar, and explaining all this. He's putting it out there. So Daniel, unfortunately, he went to the wrong person. I can't understand this. Adnan has had so many public debates with the Shia in Speaker's Corner, just destroying them. Why would you think that Adnan Rashid is going to agree with you?
Does Adnan Rashid say that Shia are kafir? Does he mass takfir the Shia?
We want to see. That's what we want to see. That's what the public.
We gotta see. We have to see concessions. We can start with the ceasefire. If Daniel stops speaking about these issues, no problem.
I'm joking. No, there's gonna be concessions. I know that. Look, this is where the magnanimity comes into play from both sides, and I think that there's diplomacy, the statesmanship, the self-restraint. I think if this is what the public want to see, you guys, we've seen the aggressive side, we've seen the assertive side, we've seen the strong side, we've seen the repudiating side. We now want to see the magnanimity, the forgiving, these kind of things. I think you are capable of it. I know that Daniel's capable of it, and I know that you're capable of it. Inshallah, we're gonna have what we need, bro. But I do need to go because
I have to go too. Yeah, but Daniel, if you're still watching, you can message Mohammed Hijab and tell him that these beliefs are not kufr and shirk. You can prove me wrong.
It's all on the stream. It's been on the stream. Many posts
I've
said all this, and you just ignore it.
It's been
you
fun,
ignore it or you misinterpret it.
Real fun, but alhamdulillah, I think that my plan here was just for us, you, me, and also what we understand from Daniel, for us to speak about these issues, get clear where everybody stands. I don't think anybody's confused about where Jake stands or Mohammed Hijab stands or Daniel based on your discussion with him. And people can make up their own mind who they think is correct in what areas. And that's it. That's what this discussion was for. And I think that it achieved its purpose.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. And we know people are happy as well with this favorable outcome, which we know is going to extend into a peaceful coexistence between
you can have the peace right now. Just have me come on. We'll have a discussion.
Inshallah. All right. Barakallahu feek. Thanks everybody for watching. Some people sent in super chats, but we didn't have time to get to it because Mohammed Hijab, I mean, he just talks too much. He won't be quiet. So we had to, no, but anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And this is my new channel because I got blasted on my old channel. So subscribe to this one if you want to see more videos.
Okay. Yeah, more videos on me.
If you want to see more videos, speaking about Christianity, speaking about the correct aqidah, all of these things, alhamdulillah, you can subscribe. If not,
okay. Let's now do post discussion. Inshallah, we want to do a post discussion on this whole conversation. Oh, sorry. So, what do you guys think? I was looking at the chat. Obviously, a lot of people were shocked by the kinds of things that Jake was saying. Ultimately, he did not agree to bring me on. I was ready and willing. He wanted to talk about me, and he's literally playing like clips and taking tweets, but why can't he just talk to me directly? That's the question. Why can't he just have me on the stream and we'll have a discussion about istighatha and what I think, about Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, about what is kufr, what is bid'ah. Are my views like Yasser Qadi's views? Because that's another lie. What do you think about Deobandis? Why don't you read the entire tweet instead of just one line of it? So he didn't want to have that opportunity for a friendly conversation through reconciliation. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? So I'm going to take a quick break, and I'll be right back for more post-interview conversation and analysis. So don't go anywhere, okay? Don't go anywhere. Stay right where you are. Look at the chat. I'm going to play some clips from my interview with Hijab, and I'll be right back, and we will analyze this conversation between Jake and Mohammed Hijab, inshallah. So stay right there, and we'll be right back.
These people that try and criticize the du'at and the public speakers and the Muslim that trying to look. Let me tell you guys something, yeah. Criticize us, no problem. We're good to do it. But here's the thing you need to understand. There's one question, one fundamental question you need to ask yourself and be honest. Before you criticize, just ask one question. Can you do a better job? That's an honest question. Sorry to say. This is the question. Can you do a better job? All right. If you can do a better job, why don't you do a better job? Look, you know what? Let me give you an offering. Yeah? Sapiens offering, Mohammed Hijab offering, which is the following. If you can do a better job than Mohammed Hijab, if you can do a better job than Daniel Haqiqatjou, if you can do a better job than Jake Brancatella, if you can do a better job, no, I'm just saying.
I think a lot of people can't do a better job.
Did he say he can? No, Akhi. In some areas you can't. Let's be honest, bro. Christianity is number one, Akhi. Let's be honest, in the world, bro.
Wait, does he talk about Christianity? I don't think he talks about Christianity.
Tell it, Akhi.
I thought he just talks about Wahhabism only.
No, man. This is whatever, man.
I thought he only talks. I thought he only Aqidah tests people. I didn't know he talks about Christianity. Did he suddenly change? Is he debating Christians?
I'm telling you, Jake Brancatella's on a different level. When it comes to Christianity, I've never seen him. Wallahi, I'm not just like you, Akhi. Look, Daniel Haqiqatjou, when it comes to feminism, liberalism, this, that, he's world class. That's the truth. Everyone knows. If someone asks, okay, who deals with the feminists the best and liberals? Say Mohammed Hijab. Who's number two? Daniel Haqiqatjou. No, I'm joking. No, but honestly, they'll mention Daniel Haqiqatjou. Have you seen his last thing? Have you seen this and that? Have you seen that lecture that he done? This is world class. Muslim Ummah, don't say anything. Whole Muslim Ummah, Arab world, the Persian, this one, that one. No one can say nothing. He's doing it the best. And it is probably something to do with his education, Harvard education, this and that. He mixed it with the Islamic. When it comes to Christianity, when it comes to the philosophical issues of the Trinity and the logical problems of the Trinity, who is number one? Jake Brancatella. This is my opinion. When it comes to the church fathers and this and that, who's number one? Adnan Rashid. It's my opinion. When it comes to, for example, what do you call it? The texts and stuff is Ijaz the Trinity. You know, for example, when it comes to this and this and that, Bahrain, Farid Bahraini. Have you seen in the da'wah? I'm not saying as a muhaddith, but like he's very, 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 very thorough, bro. For example, when it comes to like, for example, when it comes to, let's say, dealing with fiqh and this and that, then you have the ulama. That's the truth. You have the ulama. But we have an A-star lineup. If you guys can, whoever's criticizing the guys, okay, they might be saying something here and there to the brother. There might be a little fight between Daniel and Jake, little one. So what? So what? Some scholars of the past, they had fight. Akhi. Some scholars of the past, Akhi. You know, Al-Ahwazi and Ibn Asakir, bro. Have you heard of this one? I'm not going to go into detail, but one of the scholars was calling the other one homosexual, bro. He went that far.
Well, I'm not saying who is who, but one of them called the other one homosexual. The scholars get a fight. So, of course, Du'ata sometimes gets.
Okay, I'm back. So, how are you guys doing? How are you doing in the chat? Thanks, everyone, for participating in the chat. I'm still going to look at the chat and share some of your comments, but I want to give some analysis first. And yeah, so it's really surprising. He did not want to have reconciliation, have me come on. And we can discuss all of these issues: istighatha, Shia, takfir, tabdi'. Who is Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? All of these things could be discussed. But Jake doesn't want to do that. What was interesting is how Muhammad Hijab was pushing Jake. And in many cases, like trapping him, outright trapping him, like asking him, is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS, more or less deviant than an Ash'ari? And Jake faltered on that, and he didn't really give a clear answer. Why? Because ISIS, Daesh, is 100% in line with Ibn Abdul Wahhab. And they have the correct aqidah. They're followers of the Salafi aqidah as far as the attributes of Allah, istighatha, tawassul, all of these issues. They're on the same page as Jake, right? But are they deviant in other ways? And Jake wasn't able to give a clear answer to that. And Muhammad Hijab laid out clearly. Many scholars have called them deviant. Why? Because they have Khariji beliefs. They do takfir, mass takfir on the ummah. They do chain takfir on the ummah. Jake couldn't come out and clearly say that, of course, ISIS is deviant. Of course they're deviants. Of course they're Khawarij. They're this neo-Khariji group. He can't say that. Why? Why? That's a question. That's a question. So, because they're following the positions of Ibn Abdul Wahhab. If Jake comes and says that's deviant, he'll have to also say that Ibn Abdul Wahhab, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, is a deviant. That's the trap that Muhammad Hijab set for Jake, and he kind of walked right into it. Also, about the Deobandis. Look at the kind of animosity Jake has. Like what he was saying, what Jake was saying in many parts of this debate were completely inconsistent. Okay, he does not want to come out clearly and say that Imam Ghazali and Nawawi, Ibn Hajar, maybe even Ibn Qudama, they are deviants because they have these deviant positions, right? At least the first three. Because Ibn Qudama obviously is a Hanbali. But those three, they are the leaders of the Ash'ari. They're the biggest shuyukh. But he won't say that they're deviants. Yet he wants to say that Ash'aris in general, not just their beliefs, but those who follow that school of thought are deviants. How does that make any sense? How can you be harshly denouncing all of this school and its followers as deviant, but their main teachers are not deviant? How does that make sense? So that's a big contradiction. And then Muhammad Hijab was pushing him on this question of usul. Okay, well, if they have deviant positions, you have, according to your standards, scholars that have deviant positions, like Ibn Taymiyyah, who has the position that the hellfire will come to an end, even though it says in the Quran in multiple verses that there is no end. The punishment for the disbelievers is unending. Khalidina fiha abada, as he recited. There is no end to it. So this is clear nas of the Quran. And then Jake waffled again. He waffled and he said, well, Ibn Taymiyyah, yeah, that's a mistake. That's a mistake, downgrading that from deviance. It's just a mistake. But Ibn Taymiyyah has the right usul. He has the right usul. And then Muhammad Hijab pushed him on that. And pushed him, well, what about his usul is so correct? And then Jake said, oh, he just relies on Quran and Sunnah. He just relies on Quran and Sunnah and Hadith and the Salaf, the positions of the Salaf. That's what makes Ibn Taymiyyah's usul correct, but the usul of the Ash'ari incorrect, because they rely on, and the Mutakallimun, they rely on the philosophers and the Greek mantiq. This is why they are deviant. It's because of the usul. And then Hijab pushed him on that and said, no, well, actually, the Ash'ari and these different groups, non-Salafi groups, they also claim to be following the Salaf. They also claim to be following the Quran and Sunnah. Point number one. Point number two, Ibn Taymiyyah also brings in rational proofs. Ibn Taymiyyah also uses aqli type of rational proofs. So what is really the distinction? Like, how can you objectively distinguish Ibn Taymiyyah from the Ash'ari or the Maturidiyya or the Mu'tazila for that matter? They all claim to follow madhab of the Salaf. They all claim that. They all claim to be following Quran and Sunnah, and they all use aql. They all use aqli proofs, rational proofs. Ibn Taymiyyah is, one of the biggest users of aqli proofs. And Jake didn't really have an answer. He kept referring to Sheikh Ujairi, appealing to Sheikh Ujairi like, okay, well, this is not a convincing argument. So Muhammad Hijab got him on many different points, and Jake had no answer. So I think this was like more of a debate, and Jake got trounced as expected. But we have to wait 10 years. We have to wait 10 years, and Jake is guaranteeing us, just wait 10 years, I'm going to destroy everyone. I'm going to be so amazing. I'm going to be a master. Watch me in 10 years, 20 years. So, okay, inshallah, Jake. I don't recall him saying inshallah actually in his boast. So anyway, what else? What are the other shocking points? The Shia issue. Okay, complete misrepresentation. Istighatha issue, we'll talk about that. On the Shia issue, did he come out and get Muhammad Hijab to mass takfir the Shia? No. They claim that the Shia believe in tahrif of the Quran, that the Quran has been altered since it was revealed. But as I've proved, and I've cited a lot of academic documentation, that this is not a mainstream belief of the Shia at this day and age. And the scholars of the Shia have also rejected this belief of the tahrif of the Quran. You'll find statements of tahrif of the Quran in some of their books. You can find those statements, but those statements have been rejected. Those statements have been rejected by their scholars. So if we want to critique the Shia, and we should, I'm a critic of their theology and their aqidah, we should be honest and we should be fair, instead of these sound bites and a caricature of their positions, because that makes us look stupid. That makes us look like we can't debate them directly with what they believe. We have to make a straw man and tear it up. Oh, they believe in tahrif of the Quran and therefore they're kuffar. If that were the case, because Muhammad Hijab said in my interview with him that he doesn't consider the Shia en masse to be kuffar. He doesn't believe that. So we agree on that position. And he's coming from Azhar. He just graduated with a bachelor's from Azhar. And Azhar University has been one of the foremost proponents of Shia-Sunni unity and not takfiring the Shia. It's Azhar University, arguably the biggest in the world, the biggest Sunni institution in the world, pushing this from the time of Mahmud Shaltut, who was the grand imam of Azhar. But so if the mass of Shia are Muslim, then how can they believe in tahrif of the Quran? Because that's something that's clear-cut kufr, right? So it doesn't really add up. But yeah, and the whole imams issue. I wrote an entire paper on this belief that the imams are better than the prophets, except Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I wrote an entire paper responding to this kind of criticism. And the arguments that are made are just not very good arguments. I know that this is a deviant belief to think that a non-prophet, these imams, are better than all the prophets except Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's deviant. It's extreme deviance. But is it kufr? First of all, not all Shia believe this. There's a diversity of views, and I spell that out in the paper. Second of all, is it something that's ma'loom min ad-din bid-darura, and is there an ijma' on this? Jake claims that there is. He didn't cite citation, trust me, bro, like everything he said on this stream. Citation, trust me, bro. He didn't provide a name. The only scholar that he mentioned is Ujairi, which is, you know, a contemporary, another figure at Sapiens Institute, a good sheikh, mashallah. But he didn't cite any authorities on this ijma'. So where is it an ijma'? Because according to Sunni scholars, you have figures like Khidr. You have Maryam, the mother of Jesus. You have the Mahdi, for example, Imam Mahdi. And there are opinions that could they be better than one prophet? Because if you look at the narrations in hadith, some narrations say that there are over 100,000 prophets in history. Obviously, most of them have not been mentioned in the Quran. Only 23 or 25 have been mentioned in the Quran. So it's impossible for there to be one person, non-prophet, like Maryam, the mother of Jesus, or Khidr, to be better than one of these prophets? Is that something that's ma'loom min ad-din bid-darura? Like, is this something certainly known and there's like an ijma' on it? Not clear that that's the case. Not clear that that's the case. So, and then there's the verse of the Quran that they're mentioning. And they're saying, oh, there's a clear nas of the Quran that the prophets have been preferred. The Anbiya have fadl. They've been preferred by Allah over all people. Well, there's also ayat of the Quran that the Bani Israel have fadl. They've been preferred over all people. Does that mean that every member of Bani Israel is superior to every non-member of Bani Israel? Obviously not. Obviously not. So that statement made in the Quran about Bani Israel, their fadl or their superiority, that's an am statement. It's a general statement. It doesn't mean that every single member of Bani Israel is superior to every single member of non-Bani Israel. Same thing for the prophets. Like, that is a potential interpretation. Now, again, I reject that interpretation. It's deviance. But the question is it kufr? Is it kufr? That is the question. And is it kufr that takes the Shia out of Islam? Out of Islam, because that's the other thing. Even if a Shia, even if we say, yeah, it's clear cut, it's clear kufr, but it's not necessarily known with certainty, then if a Shia believes that, if a Shi'i believes that, does he have no excuse? Is there no other? Like, this is what someone like Bin Baz says. Bin Baz says that the masses of the Shia do have other. They're ignorant. Or this is something that even Toraifi, even Sheikh Abdulaziz Toraifi, hardcore Salafi Sheikh, says that especially the Shia that don't know Arabic, they have an excuse. They're ignorant. So even Sheikh Toraifi doesn't do mass takfir of the Shia. So they trying to portray me, Jake, and some of these other Wahhabis, they're trying to portray me as if I have a fringe position that no one has ever had on the Shia. Daniel is just crazy when it comes to the Shia. But I have all of these other Sunni scholars who say the exact same thing. Even Salafi, even Wahhabi scholars who say the exact same thing. That the Shia are not all kuffar. They're not all kafir. Some of them, yes, based on their beliefs. But the vast majority, we cannot do mass takfir of them. Because we have consistent Sunni principles of takfir that we apply. And this is the fiqh of takfir. Now, if Jake wants to throw that all out, he can do so. If he wants to just, see, that's the thing with these Wahhabis, and with Jake in particular, he tries to sensationalize things and play on people's emotions. But we should be very sober and serious and look at what is the actual fiqh of takfir. And what have the scholars said about the Shia? And when you have someone like Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, who says that he does not mass takfir the Shia, and there are some Shia who are Muslims inside and out, they're believers inside and out. In his works, he has statements like this about the 12er Shia specifically, 12er Shia. Then how can you disagree with that? Or if you're going to disagree, how can you say that my view is fringe or my view is unheard of within Sunnism? So that's the big point. They also wanted to, let's see, on the issue of istighatha, again, I've clarified this issue so many times. And every single time, what Jake does is he distorts it, misrepresents it, clips it out of context. And I don't know why he does this. Why does he do this? Rather than coming and talking to me directly, he's rejected every single invitation. And it's not just one or two, many invitations for conversation. Put debate aside. Obviously, I've challenged him to debate on the Shia issue. I challenged him to debate on the Istighatha issue. I challenged him to debate on the Wahhabi issue, Ibn Abdul Wahhab. Okay, fine. You don't accept debate challenges, even though you claim to be a debater. I need to wait 10 or 20 years before I can debate Jake. Fine. But how about just a conversation, bro? Just let's have a conversation. I'm not a scholar. You're not a scholar. We can still talk. You talk to Mohammed Hijab about these issues. And he clearly doesn't agree with you on a lot of those points about Aqidah. So why can't you have a conversation with me, bro? Today was the golden opportunity for that. So he wants to just talk at me. And this ceasefire, by the way, listen to what his ceasefire conditions were. Daniel shouldn't mention me. Okay, let's put aside the fact that he has like hours and hours of content on me, talking about me. Okay, let's put that aside. But Daniel should not mention me by name. And if he addresses any of these topics without mentioning me, I reserve the right to respond to him. What kind of ceasefire is that? What kind of ceasefire is that? He can't even Daniel can't even talk about these topics, and he can't say anything that might seem like it refers to me. Otherwise, Daniel has broken the ceasefire. Like, what kind of agreement is that? And yeah, I'll agree to a ceasefire if Jake actually deletes all the videos on me, the hours of content that he has been farming on me, on Twitter, on YouTube, wherever. Yeah, delete that. That's a proper ceasefire. And then you think I care about debating these issues? No. On Istighatha and Istawa al-Arsh and all of this? No. So go ahead and delete those. That'll be a legitimate ceasefire. But you have addressed all these kinds of shubuhat, all of this kind of confusion, and you just tripped and fumbled through this discussion with Mohammed Hijab and got really embarrassed in a lot of points in that conversation with how you really don't seem to know much about these topics, but no one else can respond to you. No one can address you and respond to you. No, we reject that. I have to address some of these claims that you've made about me. You said that I'm an Iranian Madkhali. You said that I'm a shaitan, I'm a great liar, and I'm a deviant. You pretended in your conversation with Hijab that, I don't call people deviants. When that's literally all you've been doing. All your videos are titled Daniel the Deviant. So, but these other Ibn Hajar, An-Nawawi, Al-Ghazali, who, by the way, I'm Athari and he's calling me a deviant. I'm Athari and he's calling me a deviant, but you have Ash'ari scholars, and no, we look at their broad work that they've done. Anyway, you can't really understand what he's trying to say. He just contradicts himself over and over again. But I'll tell you the reason why he can call me a deviant and not Ghazali and other Ash'ari scholars, because they're popular and he doesn't want to be lumped in with the Takfiris and the Haddadis. That's the real reason. Anyway, so this ceasefire is not worth anything. Okay, this is because of the conditions that he put on it. But let's put that aside. Let's put aside the fact that he's the one who's made all of these videos against me, and he won't even agree to a conversation with me. Put that aside. The istighatha issue, I've been very clear from the beginning. From the very beginning, I've been very clear on my position that yes, istighatha, many forms of istighatha, and wilayat takwiniya, also this idea of imams controlling the universe, yes, that's shirk. That is shirk. I've been very clear on this. I've had Twitter posts on it. I have spoken on live streams about it. But unfortunately, these Wahhabis, it's an IQ issue, let's be honest. It's an IQ issue, and they're not following the point. Yes, it's shirk, but is it known with certainty to be shirk? Is it known with certainty to be shirk? That's the question. That's the question. And then there's nuance in what exactly is meant by istighatha. What is that exactly is meant by wilayat takwiniya? Because different people can have different ideas and different understandings of these things, of istighatha, asking a saint or asking the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They can have different understandings. And Hijab mentioned this in his own response. Hijab said when it comes to wilayat takwiniya, the idea that an imam controls the universe, well, there is this question of istiqlal, independence. Does a person believe that the saint or the imam is an independent power, independent from Allah, controlling the universe independently from the power of Allah? Yes or no? That is something that will factor in, because if you say it's an independent power from Allah, then clearly this is shirk akbar. You think that there are multiple gods in the universe, for example. But if you don't think, you think that Allah has given power to a specific person like an imam or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then you can still think that it's shirk. You can still think that it's kufr. But is it known with certainty? Is it known with certainty that that's shirk? And there are many imams and many scholars on the issue of istighatha, like Shah Waliullah ad-Dihlawi, which he cited, or he mentioned the name, he didn't cite, he doesn't know anything about Shah Waliullah, who says that it's shirk, it's kufr, but because there's not a clear nas of the Quran or a mutawatir hadith, we don't do takfir, and we don't consider it clear-cut shirk akbar. Very simple. Very simple. But because Jake and these Wahhabis and Madkhalis, they just want to farm content and create rage bait material that, oh, Daniel is a kafir, which Jake's associates, people he retweets all the time, have takfired me. And now he wants to be coy and say, oh, I've never takfired Dan. Yeah, you haven't takfired, but the people you're retweeting constantly have takfired me. Have takfired me. And they say, Daniel is a kafir because he thinks that you can have prayers to a saint. Look at the level of lying and distortion. I'm saying it's shirk, but is it known with necessity to be shirk? That's my only question, because there isn't a nas. There isn't a clear-cut Quranic verse or mutawatir hadith to establish that. It's very simple. And this is, if you're going to say that I am supporting clear-cut shirk and Daniel is supporting clear-cut kufr, then go ahead and say, and that's why Daniel is a deviant, then go ahead and say that about Shah Waliullah ad-Dihlawi. Maybe he would do that. But go ahead and say that about Ibn Hajar, who goes much further and says that actually this is not shirk at all. This is not kufr. Istighatha is permissible. Go ahead and takfir Imam as-Suyuti. Go ahead and takfir as-Subki. Why don't you do that? You won't even say that they're, or even any of the Asha'ira actually, because most of them don't have Ibn Taymiyyah's position on istighatha. So, or Ibn Abdul Wahhab's position, say. So go ahead and do takfir of them, or say that they're defending kufr and that they are deviant. But Jake won't do that. Jake won't. He has one standard for Ghazali and Nawawi and Ibn Hajar. He has one standard, which is, oh, but they have a great body of work. They have a great body of work, and yeah, they have wrong usul, but we have to look at the whole package. And who am I to declare them as deviants? Well, there are scholars who have called them deviants and made tabdiyah, so just follow those scholars and be honest. Like, have the, the cojones to represent your aqidah, Jake. But Daniel, who is much closer to your position, because Daniel says this is shirk, but he just doesn't know that it's shirk with certainty. Daniel is a deviant, and you can make a video that says Daniel the dishonest deviant. How is this consistent? And by the way, Muhammad Hijab also doesn't have his positions on these issues. He just asked Hijab about the most extreme case of wilayat takwiniyah. He didn't actually ask Hijab and aqidah test Hijab about istighatha and its different forms. He didn't aqidah test him on that. Interesting. He didn't aqidah test Muhammad Hijab on the sifat. Interesting. But for me, it's not even like I'm promoting these positions or these views. I'm not even talking about it. He's the one who has made all these videos and demanding Daniel has to speak out. Daniel has to tell us what he thinks about istighatha. Daniel has to tell us what he thinks about wilayat takwiniyah. Daniel has to tell us what he thinks about the sifat. Daniel has to tell us what he thinks about Asha'ira and Maturidiyah. Daniel has to. I wasn't doing any lectures on these issues. It was his constant challenge. And then I responded to the challenge. And I said, look, I'll explain all these things in a debate. He ran away. I'll explain these things in a conversation. He ran away. What does that tell you about the person's sincerity, I wonder? So, and then now I'm telling you my position, and I'm saying, yeah, this is kufr, this is shirk, but I don't know with certainty. And based off of that, you're still claiming I'm a deviant. So this is very, very inconsistent. And it's clear why he's inconsistent. Like he's just learning it as he goes along. He's just learning things as he goes along. Like the only thing that he can say is, oh, but Sheikh Ujairi said, in one conversation, Sheikh Ujairi said. Like we're supposed to take this seriously? Like, what do you think if we had a debate? Like I went onto the stream and he was man enough to let me come and speak to me face to face instead of just talking about me. And he said, yeah, Daniel, but when it comes to making tabdi' of these Ash'aris, don't you know what Sheikh Ujairi said? We just laugh. We just laugh at him. Give me a legitimate reference. Give me a legitimate scholar. He can't do that in a live discussion, as Muhammad Hijab demonstrated. And this is why it's such a big own goal for Jake. Like he basically demonstrated that he can't have this, why he can't have a conversation, why he can't have a debate. Because he'll just get stuck. He won't know what to say. It's not like Twitter where you can go and ask someone to give you the answer and then post it. He can't have a live discussion. And Hijab was bringing up all of these points and Jake could not respond other than, well, but Sheikh Ujairi said. This is humiliating. It's like a really embarrassing showing from Jake. So then be humble. Be humble. Instead of making videos, now wait 10 years when you can have the knowledge and the ability to debate these issues. Then go out guns blazing against the Ash'aris, the Maturidis, the Deobandis, the Brailvis, the Asrar Rashids. Like, look at the disrespect. He's saying like Asrar Rashid, like he's turning up his nose. Asrar Rashid. Like, I don't agree with everything that Asrar Rashid says, Sheikh Asrar, in the UK. But could Jake, when he has this condescending attitude towards Asrar Rashid, could Jake come and have a discussion with Asrar Rashid? It would be over within the first minute. Be over within the first 30 seconds. And I was shocked. He was like, Asrar Rashid has my number. You think if Asrar Rashid messages you and for a conversation, you'd accept that? I really hope that Asrar Rashid, if any of his students are watching this, please convey to him that Jake has challenged Asrar Rashid and is claiming that Asrar Rashid is too scared to face Jake. Right? We have it on record. Jake making that kind of statement and pretending, and the gall of this guy to pretend that Asrar Rashid is scared to face Jake in a conversation or a debate. Are you nuts? So I really hope that Asrar Rashid and his students will expose Jake and say, no, Jake, I am open invitation. Come and let's discuss. We won't even have it be a debate. It'll just be a discussion. Jake couldn't even handle Mohammed Hijab being extremely nice to him. Mohammed Hijab with the very nice, and Hijab is constantly glazing Jake and praising him. Jake couldn't even keep his head above water in that context. What is he going to do with Asrar Rashid? Or anyone else, literally anyone else. Bring a Deobandi scholar. Forget about a Deobandi scholar or sheikh. Jake couldn't last any conversation, live streamed or not, with a first year student of Deoband, with a first year Dars Nizami student, or let's be generous and say second year. Jake couldn't handle a conversation with a second year Dars Nizami student. And if you know Dars Nizami, it's at least the minimum is a 4 or 5 year program. And some of these people that Jake is calling out and calling deviant, these Deobandis that he's calling deviant, they're not just graduates of Dars Nizami. They've done a specialization. They've done iftat. They've gone into the master's level, you could say. He can't even talk to like a second year student. So, and a lot of people in the chat were saying this, like, why isn't Jake being humble? Like, this is shocking to have so little knowledge yet to be so arrogant. And it's a good reminder for all of us. It's a good reminder for all of us. Don't talk the talk when you can't walk the walk. And that's the difference that I've mentioned. Like, when I criticize someone publicly, I make sure that I'm absolutely right on that issue, and I've investigated it from the best of my ability to the highest level of ability. I've discussed with other scholars, and that's why I'm willing to debate it. I'm willing to come out and let's have a debate. So when I criticize Yasser Qadi for his reformism, for his statements about the Quran, the preservation of the Quran and holes in the narrative, when I talk to these people and criticize them online, I invite them. I say, let's have a conversation, or let's have a debate if you prefer. I'm not going to criticize them and then run away when they say, let's talk, because that's humiliating. That is so ugly. If you're going to talk the talk, walk the walk. Jake's mouth is writing checks that his rear end can't cash. That's the sad fact. So, yeah, istighatha, like, it was funny. He's on the stream saying, this is what Daniel thinks. And I'm saying on the watching it, no, that's not what I think. In fact, the exact opposite. So, like, how can you do that? How can you misrepresent someone so blatantly and so stubbornly, right? So blatantly and so stubbornly misrepresent someone. When the person is willing, he's clarifying. I'm here clarifying. This is what I'm saying. This is what I think. But no, you don't want to hear it. La 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 la. No. I'm not gonna hear. I'm not gonna hear. I'm trying to clarify. I'm trying to get the. And then you like say, oh, Daniel is inconsistent. Daniel is flip-flopping. No, you just haven't understood. Like, you just don't understand. It's like above your pay grade. So you think that you pretend like it's a flip-flop. Anyway, let's look at some of the super chats. Inshallah. Really appreciate everyone's super chats. Lions don't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. Correct. Parviz, thank you for your super chat. Doesn't make sense to have a ceasefire agreement when one of the parties isn't even present to put forth their terms. Anyway, keep up the good work. Really appreciate it. Jake's issue is that he has a discrepancy in his thinking. You need to get him to see that. Yeah, that's a real understatement. Discrepancy is like very nice way to put it. Brother Mohammed, invite him to the stream, please. Yeah, he can join. He can message me. Let's see. Immortal Technique. Eagerly waiting for the day my brother Daniel, my brother Jake, my brother Hijab, my brother Sajid, my brother Shamsi make peace and reconcile. Yeah, that would be great. But that's not what Wahhabism is about. Wahhabism is about Aqidah testing people, and you can't unite on the basis of error. You can't unite on the basis of deviance as they define it. So they will never, like, their whole manhaj is designed, and it's not Hanbalism, by the way, and it's not even Salafism. We have to purify Salafism from this Wahhabi deviance. Their manhaj is just constant civil war through Aqidah testing to divide and conquer. That's what their manhaj is all about. So you're preaching to the choir, Immortal Technique. You're preaching to the choir. That's what me and Mohammed Hijab want. But their manhaj is what prevents that. As you saw, like even in the ceasefire agreement, the agreement that Hijab was talking about, and Hijab was like, let's come together and ally together, unite. Can at least conservative Sunnis unite? And Jake said, no. We can't unite on deviance. So what kind of mindset is that? See, Maximid, DH and MH have the same aqidah. Jake, in my opinion, attacks DH because he talks about politics. MH said there's Medkhalis in Morocco. Jake doesn't believe in Medkhalism. Sus. He doesn't believe in Medkhalism. He didn't say anything against them. When Hijab made a very direct question and Jake dodged it. Another uniting comment from Immortal Technique. Will this be the end to the Twitter back and forth? Yeah, let's see. Again, like I wanted to have a conversation. Why is he not able to do that? Like the whole idea of if you have a difference in Aqidah, you can't unite. Who said that? Who said that? You can't ally with someone who has a different Aqidah. You can ally with even different religions in Islam. You can ally together even with non-Muslims, with Christians and Jews. You can. If someone is a Muslim, that's even more reason, more ability that you have Islamically to unite with them and to ally with them. Okay, guys. So that's my reaction to the whole conversation with Jake and I thought it was funny overall. Like the whole issue of hijab kind of making all these points, and Jake didn't really have much of a response. Like he's just very inconsistent on his principles. Like, okay, Ibn Taymiyyah can say that hellfire is not eternal. That's not ijma'. Have you ever even heard? Like, so many people haven't even heard of this view. That Ibn Taymiyyah has the view that hellfire will come to an end. The nar, fana nar, will come to an end. That's less of an ijma' than, for example, the issue of imams or the issue of prophets being superior to all non-prophets. Really? Can you really make that argument? And he didn't cite anything. He didn't cite any ijma' on that position. But that's what Ibn Taymiyyah holds. So why isn't Ibn Taymiyyah considered by you, Jake, a deviant? Why is he still not only Ahlus Sunnah? Ibn Taymiyyah is an imam of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And his only response is, no, but it's about usul. Ibn Taymiyyah's usul is good. That's why. What usul is that? Going back to Quran and Hadith? Well, guess what? Even on the usul, the Atharis and the Hanbalis differed widely. The usul of someone like Ibn Uthaymeen and Al-Albani and their approach to Hadith is very different than the usul of the early Ahl al-Hadith. They have very different usul, and they have very different fiqh when it comes to takfir specifically. If you look at the acceptance of weak hadith, this is the whole debate, right? On what kind of hadith is acceptable to make a ruling in terms of not only fiqh, but also aqidah. Can we take aqidah positions on the basis of weak hadith? Different Athari scholars differed on this question, differed on this issue. Someone like Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah, was much more willing to take positions on aqidah based off of weak hadith compared to later scholars. And early scholars of Ahl al-Hadith were much more willing to takfir than later Hanbali scholars, than Ibn Taymiyyah, for example. That's why you have Ahl al-Hadith takfiring someone like Bukhari, Imam Bukhari, takfiring Imam Muslim, takfiring Tabari. They're takfiring Bukhari, literally Imam Bukhari. Why? This is on the basis of tilawat al-Quran. Is the recitation of the Quran created or not? And they will takfir Imam Bukhari on that issue, Imam Muslim on that issue. Later Hanbali scholars, later Athari Ahl al-Hadith scholars have a different view, have a different position on takfir, have a different position on Imam Muslim and Bukhari. So there's not consistent usul. They have major differences. But Jake doesn't understand this. Maybe he's never even heard anything like this. So he just wants to feed us this cartoon character version, this caricature of the Islamic tradition and his own manhaj that, everyone is on the same usul. Everyone has the same usul. That's why they're not deviants. This is laughable. It's sophomoric. This is why he can't really have a conversation, a friendly conversation with anyone, because all of this ignorance will be exposed. And that's the ultimate bottom line. Okay, any final comments? This has been a long stream. Jake went hard against Jackson Hinkle, a Gen Z guy ferociously pro-Palestinian. He goes after Daniel. I think he's leaning Zayo Medkhali. Yeah, Medkhali. I think he couldn't even say one thing against the Medkhalis, which is interesting because a lot of Salafis will call out the Medkhalis and denounce the Medkhalis, call them deviant. But I guess Jake is not on that manhaj. Jake can't say a single thing about the Hindu temples being constructed in the Gulf Why? He demands that I do takfir of Khomeini and Shia leaders, rulers. Why can't we demand that he make takfir of other rulers? Why? Brother Ragnar, really appreciate your moderation for 5 hours or almost 4 hours. Good review. Inshallah, this all works out well. He should delete the videos and hopefully this gets put behind us. Yeah, inshallah. But again, this is bigger than Jake. Remember that. Because it's this whole Wahhabi ecosystem, a sectarian ecosystem that has to be stamped out. So that's why I'm putting out videos, inshallah. They're not going to be concerned about Jake. Like, who cares? The guy who can't even have a conversation. They're going to be looking at the bigger topics like Wahhabism, Ibn Abdul Wahhab, sectarianism. What does it mean to be Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah? What are the principles of being Sunni? What are the principles of unity or alliance? These are the bigger issues that are very relevant. And it's very connected to the mission of MuslimSkeptic. Because we at MuslimSkeptic want people to unite on Islam. We want Muslims to unite on Islam. So there's two threats to that kind of unity. One threat is when you have Wahhabis and Madkhalis and these sectarians who are constantly trying to divide Muslims and split them up and have civil war on Aqidah. That's one threat. So we have to block that. We have to stamp that out. The other threat are those who are watering down Islam and distorting the clear-cut aspects of Islam. Like, in Islam, we don't reform the religion because of liberalism and feminism. In Islam, we don't suddenly open the door to LGBT. In Islam, we don't suddenly accept secularism and modernism. That's a huge threat to Islam. So that's, in summary, if you want to understand our mission at MuslimSkeptic, we want to unite the Muslims on Islam. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, as Allah says in the Quran. Let's unite on the rope of Allah and not differ. But there's two ways that mission can be destroyed. If you have sectarianism, constant civil war, or if you distort the ABCs of Islam with modernist reformism. That's what we talk about, and that's what we are about on MuslimSkeptic. So hopefully that summary, a friend of mine mentioned it as his understanding of what we're trying to do at MuslimSkeptic. I thought it was a good summary. Okay, guys. Well, again, I appreciate all of you staying for the chat. Hopefully you enjoyed the commentary. I certainly enjoyed it. I was hoping that we could have reconciled. I was hoping that they would let me onto the stream for a conversation. But unfortunately, some people are not interested in reconciliation. What can we say? They're interested in clicks, content farming. Oh, well. Yeah, so. All right, guys. Until next time. Jazakumullah khairan, everyone. Till next time, we will have more episodes next week of Haqiqatjou, and we have great guests lined up. We're going to hopefully have some surprise guests for you with great conversations coming up. I'll be announcing it shortly. And we have this Ibn Abdul Wahhab documentary that's being made that I hope will get released by next week, end of next week, or maybe early the week after. Let's see. But it's being made, and it's going to be a good one, inshallah, that documentary. Thank you for your super chat, Mohammed. I've learned and benefit a lot from you, brother. I love you for the sake of Allah. Appreciate it. Let's see. Appreciate you all. I'll see you on the next episode of Haqiqatjou. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.